Yeah.
Good. It's all good. He on his way?
She's on the way. Yeah.
Okay.
Q, you got the thing up?
Well, yeah.
The format? Okay.
I have a purple mic too, so I had to switch him over, but you should be fine.
So now just keep yours up with mine, because my phone.
Okay.
Yeah, Michelle check, you know?
Perfect.
Yeah.
He doesn't have headphones for his.
Oh, let's see, is there another pair over there?
I think it's in the little
Y'all can hear me?
drawer.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
You don't need it. Do you want a pair?
I'm good, bro.
Technically, none of you guys actually need it.
Oh, here's the pair right here.
I'm alright. We ain't gotta do all that.
It just sounds so clear.
As long as y'all hear me, yeah, we good.
I'm alright.
You
All
sure?
right, just in case when ring
What?
comes to.
Okay, cool. You guys ready to start? Or?
Let's do it.
Yeah, we're gonna start.
Alright, awesome.
When she gets here, I'll just let you know.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for her.
Alright, cool.
And then, do we have an extra chair? Let me-
Yeah, the chair's right there. We good.
Yeah,
We good.
Cool. Alright, I'll keep an eye out for her and I'll bring her here.
Cool. All right.
I'll do 10 seconds silence and then we'll
Bet.
start.
All right. Damn, I should have got some water. It's too
You have
early.
more than 10 seconds though.
These
He's
are the things that we're
talking.
talking.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's all good though.
Okay.
Christian rap. So Pastor's gonna talk about Christian rap.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Why not?
Facts.
Is that the Millie?
Okay, I was just making sure.
You're not sure.
That look like
Shit.
1,000 rock.
1,000 rocks. Yo.
We back.
We back. Episode 38.
Let's do it.
38.
Episode Mike Anderson, Denver Broncos running back.
You looked that shit up.
I did not look
That's
it
the
up.
fuck you did. I seen you yesterday, bro. I'm not letting you get online.
Dude, really?
On air
Hold on,
live, bro.
No. Hold on. Because you're going to try to.
Yesterday?
That's how rumors get started. What did I say before I showed you the phone? I'm like, Mike Anderson, running back, Denver Broncos. And what did I show you? I'm like, oh, I got you to show you the proof.
I think you looked it up. I'm
I
not
didn't
giving you
look it
credit
up,
for that.
dude.
Let's go on the record. No credit for that one.
The hater of the year.
You know, if you didn't, it's impressive.
I can't hear you, Q, because you're
If
not
you-
talking to the
If you
microphone.
didn't, wait, I don't think I can hear myself either.
That's why it's important to mic check, you know.
I did.
And you didn't do it. Anyway, episode 38.
What up?
We have a packed house in the building. You know, we're going to start the second half, right? You know? So we're going to do this the way we practiced yesterday. We're going to start with Q.
What up?
We rehearsed this.
I don't have a name, y'all. I'm just Q.
Q Doe.
Sometimes
Sometimes.
that's dope. That's
You
dope
know.
too.
Yeah, that's her
That's
name.
it.
And that would be to your left, Q. You are
Sardia.
Miss Anderson.
Miss
in the building.
Anderson.
Mrs.
Mr. Anderson.
Sardia Anderson. Yes, that's me.
I don't have my sound, people. That's what you get.
We upgraded and downgraded at the same time.
To your left.
Yes, well, they call me Wall Street, but I'm Andre Brown.
Wall Street. I like the Wall Street.
Yeah.
What up, man? Welcome to Unpopular Opinions.
Yeah, happy to be here, bro.
Thanks,
Wall Street
man.
in the building.
Wall Street. What we got to the left.
Oh, that's me?
Left.
You can switch up and say to my right.
Can you just let me be
Far
great?
right. Yeah, I'm far
That
right.
wasn't
But
great.
left, but always left.
Thank you.
Yeah, left
Thank you.
field,
That-
you know.
Thank you. That's why I
Carnegie
said
Kid,
that.
Y'all know, usual suspect. I'm here all the time. Yeah, y'all know who it is. Ain't that? It's like KD. Y'all know who I am.
Oh, yeah. And to his left,
Okay.
Keenan Jackson.
Keynon Jackson.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
We appreciate the sound effects.
Thank you, because you didn't.
Meaning, I know, my bad.
And who
Yeah.
you?
I'm not good with this type of
Don't
stuff.
try to put
I
everybody
did my. I
else
said
on
my.
that.
I
You did?
am Bryce's dad.
Bryce Daddy.
I am the pappy. You know. Like, I don't have any sound effects with it.
There's been some changes since the last time we recorded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
word. You Bryce Daddy now.
Yeah, I am a father. I am
Congrats.
the father.
Worry.
Yeah, man.
I definitely thought that was supposed to be a Bible reference for a second.
Nah.
I was like, don't be blasphemous on Sunday, but never mind. I thought it was a Bible reference.
No,
I
we ain't
realized
doing
it's
that,
Maury.
man. Don't try to put.
What?
We ain't doing that.
No, when he said I am the Father, I didn't get it. But
Okay.
never mind.
From the movie.
Nah.
I think
Star Wars.
Jerry
Star Wars.
Springer.
Oh,
Luke,
Yeah, Luke.
I am your
Sadia went to Maury.
That's a better right. That's a better.
No. Actually, she went to Jerry Springer.
Cross reference.
No,
She
it's
said
not-
Springer.
No.
Nah, Maury
First
is
of
you
all,
are the father. That's
you
Maury.
serious?
You
No,
are the
you
father.
whispered more. You whispered Springer. I'm whatever.
That's after the fact.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Jerry was on some other stuff.
I can't hear myself. Lord.
They were touching
Yeah.
animals
Is it
and
plugged in?
Jerry.
Hold up.
Weird.
We'll
things.
fix that.
Maury's a staple of stay-at-home black community. Like if you staying at
Yeah.
home,
You watch
you ain't at work. Yeah, like as everybody's guilty pleasure. Like no matter how woke you try to be or how intelligent you try to act like
I
you
would
are,
agree.
you watch some Maury every now and then. I ain't gonna lie. Yo,
Definitely chiming in.
I used to love the fat babies, but they don't do that no more.
No,
that
no
used to be
more.
my shit. Maybe because the whole health shit.
Why
with the country now,
are we
like,
doing
but-
this?
Nah, the fat babies used to have me weak.
I used to love those episodes
Wait,
too.
fat baby.
Yeah,
They
that's
used
why
to
I'm
do-
like,
On
it,
what?
Maury.
it would either be
Before they went
paternity
straight
tests or
DNA.
fat babies. And they just completely deaded the fat babies. Like it's just 5 days
the
of
bad
paternity.
kids.
Maury
Or
was
bad
horrible.
kids,
The bad
they deaded
kids
that
and
shit
bring
too,
and they
like-
bring the
With
drill
D.
sergeant.
West.
With D West with the sweater vest cut off with the arms.
You know, I ran into that
God.
the guy who normally does the lie detector tests on Maury. I ran into him a couple of times at this Italian spot.
Dr.
on the
Steve?
Upper West.
Oh wait, no, Steve.
Now no, Dr.
On
Steve
purpose
Harris,
or
and
by
now he be
accident?
on the reality shows.
On purpose or by accident?
By accident.
Oh yeah.
What am I
I'm
doing?
just playing. I'm just playing. I'm just
Hey,
playing.
clarification is needed.
Point taken, understood.
Nah, I guess that's good exposure. Maury, if you want to give Unpopular Opinions a shout out, we appreciate it, Maury. Give us the alley, throw it up there. That shit is every day. You got it. That's visibility, baby. That's every day. Network television. Fuck it, Maury. Holla at us. Come
I don't
through,
know,
matter of
man.
fact, Maury.
I don't know about that.
I got some
man.
questions, Maury.
No media is bad media.
Fuck
I
it,
guess.
yo. The shit's
Right.
on
I
every day.
suppose.
We just
Bobby
said
Brown,
it's a
that's
staple.
what he said.
I guess.
Right.
Listen,
What the hell? No. Oh, okay.
my bad. I sidetracked it. I do that sometimes. But,
But yeah, so let's get right into it. We have guests in the building, very special guests. We have the poet, published author,
Boo boo.
Miss Anderson,
Yes.
Sardia.
Yes.
This is
Check out that book, Reflections of a Tribal Soul.
Yes.
Check it out.
hell yeah.
Yes, and we also have, we have a person who is need no introduction, but we're gonna give him one anyway. Pastor Keenan Jackson or KJACK. What would you like?
Whatever. I don't care.
So, Mr. Jackson.
There you go.
Mr. Jackson. We'll get right into it. First off, how long have you been rapping, sir?
Rapping since I was like 15.
15.
Rapping, yeah. Never took it very seriously. It was always just fun.
Okay.
Still is, but yeah.
Okay. So, so what made you get into battle rapping? Because, like I told you earlier, when we was in school, you used to sing. Like, he could sing, by the way. I don't know if he could still do it. I used to be jealous because we was tall in college, but he was the tall one that could sing, and I couldn't sing. And he can dunk, and I couldn't dunk, so I just couldn't do it. I was just all messed up. Ooh.
But you could shoot.
Yeah, I could shoot.
You could
I
shoot.
could shoot, but you could sing. You can sing and dunk. I couldn't do that.
That's true. I would sing and dance on the
I take singing and dunking.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. I started the whole battle rap thing was I was always interested in rap clearly, but battle rapping became a thing for me last year.
Yeah.
Like I started last year battle rapping. I always wanted to do it. When URL had tryouts,
Yeah.
I told my brother that I was going to try out as a Christian battle rapper, and he looked at me like I was stupid and was like, "You're bugging." Needless to say, he's now saying, "Yo, you're nice." So,
Yeah.
I possibly should have done it then, but God makes no mistakes. So I took this route, and so far it's been getting some decent traction.
So did you garner any like conflict within that? Like you do battle rapping, and did that have any conflict with the like church? Like
I thought it would because I actually pastor an older congregation, so I figured they were gonna be like, "You're bugging. You're not doing that. You're not gonna represent this church in that manner." But they were like, "Go, do it. What you need from us?" I'm like, "Word."
That's what's up.
It is, and it's very interesting because I expected the older congregation to be more apt to say no. Yeah. And it's just about anything I want to do within the context of, our faith. Yeah. They're with it. And so I told them that this is something that I already planned before meeting them, before becoming, their pastor. And, they've been backing me ever since, to the point where I'm getting messages from them. Whenever a battle drops, I'm getting messages from them like, "Yo, Pastor, you killed this dude." So it's very interesting.
That's dope.
It's very interesting to hear from my congregation and how they support me and encourage me.
Are there rules to it? Like, is there certain things, like certain subjects you won't touch on? Like, do you not curse, or like is it free?
I don't curse.
Okay,
that's just a personal thing.
Is it like anything like you ain't saying damn, like? Because a lot of people.
All right, so let me get this straight.
Before we started this
podcast. No. So damn is actually a curse.
Okay. So you don't even say
F, S, B, A are not curses. They're cuss words. They're just, it's profanity. A curse is like, So when you say damn, I damn you. So that's damning. Damning someone is actually cursing them.
So you don't say curse words or cuss words.
I say damn.
Okay, all right.
But I don't say damn you.
Okay.
I'm not sending you nowhere I can't send you, if that makes any sense.
Right.
I don't have the power to send you to hell, so how am I tell you go to hell?
Are the opponents, is it like, is it free for all, like for them? Like, do they? Oh, okay.
I mean, they try.
That gotta be pretty.
They try.
Yeah, so let me ask this: how do you prepare for like a battle? Like, what is that?
It's a good question.
Like?
Depends on my opponent. So I've only had one secular battle. So I battled 2 Christians prior to me battling a secular artist.
For the listeners who don't know what secular is.
Secular, mainstream, regular. Yeah.
Don't do that, Q.
Non-religious.
I'm
encouraging our listeners to be self-sufficient.
I'm just saying.
Right. Non-religious folk who, and by the way, I love everybody.
Of course.
Literally. That mean them literally. So much so that my opponent, and who's a secular artist, non-religious artist, he hit me, and we stay in contact to this day. And so we're always in contact. That's what I'm in here for. It's not for me to just bash somebody, scream in somebody's face for 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes, or whatever it is, and then going about my merry way, and get the pats on the back, and I'm that guy. No, it's not about that. It's about forming and forging relationships with folk that may not know who I know, and not necessarily making them come to this side, but at least showing them that it's cool to be Christian as well. So many people like, y'all stuck up, y'all holy rollers, y'all don't do nothing. Not over here. We actually is cooler than you think.
Okay.
So to build on to your question, Wall Street, like I like that Wall Street. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so to build on
that is kind of fire. But I will kill you in a battle if you came with me with that name. No, I'm just playing.
Nah, but to build off that, when he asked how you prepare, so in preparing, right?
I didn't even answer that.
Is there any limits? Like, do you have like, I'm gonna chill on that, but you like, nah?
Absolutely. So, I think the I'ma chill on that was more so against Christian artists than secular. There are so many things that I won't say to a Christian artist that I will say to a secular artist, simply because I'd rather tell the Christian behind the scenes and talk to them in person. Yeah. Because when people see me battling, for instance, I just had a battle that dropped yesterday. And when they see that battle, some people may look at it like, yo, see, there's divisiveness within Christianity, because look at what's happening. So there's certain things that I won't say. I'd rather tell him to his face behind closed doors to him.
Can you give an example of that? Like something specific that you would say to someone who wasn't and who was like, Like
That you
like
might
a
say to a
line that you would
Christian
say that you
versus,
would that you would say.
I'll say a line that I already said.
Yeah, definitely. Like I want to know, like literally.
Dag, I don't even. All right.
Or like,
Somebody
what about
say
the-
something first, and then I'll look it up real quick because I don't remember it off top.
Because I'm just confused as to like what, like you wouldn't say something
Alright.
to a secular artist, like I mean a non-secular artist, like referring to religion or like what, like I'm
Like a
confused as to
person.
what.
If I see something, a personal hiccup, or all right. Let me just explain my battle. My battle was with Lee Majors. He's the owner of Overflow. He's the CEO of Overflow, which is the Christian battle rap league. And we battled, and when we were battling, there are certain things that I know about him that I'm not going to say because it's not meant for the public.
Okay.
You know, and I'm sure there's certain things he knows about me that he probably won't say because it's meant for the public. I mean, it's not meant for the public. So that's something that you just, it's like you have your best, you have your best friend, and you don't need to voice certain things in front of a crowded room. You wait till you're by yourselves, and then you talk to them.
I feel you. I guess that's kind of hard, man,
It is.
because at the battle, it's like, damn, it kind of be like no holds barred. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, when this shit go, we going,
But-
dog.
But that, and I think that's the difference, or should be the difference between Christian battle rappers and secular battle rappers. You just do you walk lightly. You walk lightly, but it's still no holds barred. If that makes any sense.
I feel you. I totally get it.
So, for instance, when I battled T Porter, I was like, but y'all say we hypocrites. Y'all seeing deceivers? Well, it's not black and white like Leave It to Beaver, because we're spirit and flesh, even the leaders. So I could pray or take a blade and start tweaking your features. Since we in the garden, I could be Jesus or Peter. Now, that whole thing is strictly biblical. Okay. That's when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, and Peter sliced the ear off of the Roman guard. So I said I can pray or take a blade and start tweaking your features since we in the garden, because it was in Gates of the Garden.
Wordplay.
Yeah. Since we in the garden, I could be Jesus or Peter. So it's like, for some people, they'll be like, yo, that's way too far. But I'm like, but it's biblical. It's right there. Like, what am I saying? That's so crazy.
But but even with like approach to or like when you're thinking about, when you step into a battle and you're thinking about the messages, or do you have like any thoughts, any pre-thought about like what messages you want to come across in your
Absolutely.
lands versus whatever?
Number one, that I love God. Number two, I'm not soft. So if I get those 2 points across, I'm Gucci. Like, yeah, I'm saved. Yeah, I'm a pastor, but don't think you're not gonna walk over me in life, basically. So just because we're Christian don't mean that, every all the time we could turn the other cheek. Like, that's our goal, but we're still human at the core. We're still trying to be better every day. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's one of the things Prep said to me when I finished my battle. Prep is on URL, all those. He was like, you know what I like about you? You're not painting this picture that you're so perfect. That you're actually saying like you have faults, and I do. Omar could tell you, So I'm sorry, McCray could tell you.
Nah, they know me.
So I have faults, and there's things that I'm trying to get better at every day, just like everybody else in life. So that's just basically what I try to do when I'm preparing my rounds.
Sidebar. What up, RAINE?
What up?
Hey, Rain, what's good?
RAINE.
Rain's in the building.
In the building.
Yeah.
You wanted to say something, Anderson?
No, that was a good segue. The question you asked about, I feel like in your music, you're giving off skills, but you're sending a message. That's
Absolutely.
the intent.
Yes.
What do you say to people who criticize gospel artists that kind of get themselves involved in secular stuff, right? Because hip-hop music, the very etymology of it is from secularism. It's not Christ-like. It's not from Christianity. What do you say to those people?
Well, there's a fine line between what is Christ-like and what's not. A lot of people don't realize that hip hop started off with stories. They were just telling stories that rhymed. And what's the difference? I mean, if I tell you about the story of the cross in a rhyme, I consider that hip hop. However, if there are some folk that want to infiltrate, get into the secular world who are Christian, I'm all for it. I mean, to me, it's all about the message, though. Like, what message are you trying to portray? Are you trying to portray you got a whole bunch of thoughts running behind you, and your life is a party every day? You doing this, that, and the third, like some artists, or are you gonna go out and just talk about life, or how we can better humanity, or talk positively or speak positively in the lives of these young people who are actually listening to this music? So I just think, and I also think that you can have a headbanger without being ridiculous either. So I think that's really the dichotomy, or the things that people really don't know how to separate or how to put together.
The thing that I struggle with is the idea, as you spoke about, like, secularism. I Googled it because sometimes, like, I told people to Google because I would have done the same thing. But sometimes, like, you have to operationalize these things to understand, like, what they are actually saying. And it speaks about, like, the separation of state from religion or church. And I don't think all of those things are the same thing. But what's interesting is that I don't know if hip-hop is separate from religion. And I know that that's a completely, like, different conversation because, like, when I think about state, I think about institutions, and I think hip hop has been, like, formed into some sort of institution, but I think originally it wasn't as such, right? So I don't know. I'm still toying with, like,
grappling with that idea.
You have hip hop and then you have rap. Hip hop is the culture, so the culture can never be, as much as they try to, like, pimp it out or whatever, at the core, like he said, it is just, an art form. It's just stories. Initially, they were stories, real life stories, no matter who you were. It's just that over time, certain images got glorified. So that's why, people say secular. It's just like, not really. It's just like a griot. Like a hip hop, a rapper essentially is just a storyteller, telling their lives or telling the stories of other people.
Yeah.
So. How
but
could you say
makes
it?
me think that, like, sometimes we conflate the word secular with, like, dominant culture, if that makes any sense. Because if that's the case, like, rap was essentially another form of language, right? Just a form of language that we use to express ourselves.
It's a medium.
It's a medium, yeah.
Right.
It's poetry, like, it's an art form.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily...
But not something that was necessarily institutionalized at some point, which I think is the thing that they're saying is a difference between something that's of, like,
it's like
God
anything. Once
not.
money is involved and once you can make money off of it, things just change. But at the core, you can essentially talk about whatever you want to talk about within any form of music, right? So you can be anti-Christ, you can be,
Christ-like.
You can be whatever you want to be.
If it's a talent, isn't it God-given? Like, if you have the talent to be able to rap well, that has to be God-given. So how can hip-hop not be, you know what I'm saying? Like, you may say some cuss words or say whatever, and, God may not quote unquote agree with that, but that's just like your journey. That's your self-expression, and you got to kind of get that out. Like,
it's just expressing yourself. I think what happens. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I think what happens with I haven't seen your battles yet, but some of the guys who have started, like, battling and doing the Christian battle rap. I think what happens is people, like, you get categorized as, like, someone that's like you think you're God or something like that. So it's like meaning like you're too good or whatever. So people judge you like you said, like you're not human.
Right.
It's the same thing. It's probably like a reach, but someone last night was bringing up Lil Nas X, right, and the fact that he came out. Even though now we don't know is he trolling or what is he doing, right? He's just like a typical 19-year-old boy to me.
That's a fact.
But
I agree with you.
But people because hip hop is masculine for the most part, right? Off rip he's judged. And I think people judge people who are gay by their sexuality. Like, all they do is think about having sex
masculine, though. Is hip hop masculine
Yes,
though?
it's definitely masculine.
With Lil Uzi Vert and Young Thug and all these dudes is
that's
the
just
top
now,
dudes.
but
That's what I'm
before-
saying. Yeah, now like
Migos.
his hip hop, Lil Nas's ex hip hop. I don't think that shit is overtly masculine. All hip hop, 50 Cent, all early, but now, right?
Hip hop is still.
But I'm saying, I don't think Lil Nas X knows like that. Like the shit that he listened to.
But how do
ain't
you
that.
define
It's a
masculinity?
new era. No, when I say that, I'm saying like so. Okay, so 50 Cent, he poked fun at a picture of Young Buck.
Yeah,
Lil
Young-
Nas X,
yeah,
like,
the-
and made some joke.
I mean,
Really?
50, it's funny though. Like because it's funny. It is funny because you know what happened with
Google
Young
it.
Buck and all the history that he had, whatever. So that's why it's funny. It's funny.
I don't go that way with it. I was just trying to say that how
Yeah, my
every
bad.
form
That was
of
for cute
hip-hop
people.
is judged. Like, so you're judged by your religion, you're judged by
Facts.
your sexuality, so it's just.
Well, I think I'm just going to say
Go
this
ahead.
and shut up. The reason why I pose that question to you is I think about, like, the Bible says, by the fruit you shall know them. And I'm not going to, that's not what you're here for. I'm not even hosting a show or anything. And so I'm thinking about there has to be a separatism in terms of people who are walking worldly and people who are walking with Christ. And when you try to conflate or converge those things, that's where the questions come up and that's where people get uncomfortable. And be like, but wait. Like you were saying, you're supposed to be holy. How are you now doing things that 50 Cent does, who's making fun of people, or whatever he does? I don't know the intricacies of what he did the other day, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
I totally get it. That's the beauty of us going to these venues, these events, all these, because then they can see the difference. So my first battle against T. Porter, who was not a Christian rapper, he at that venue they were selling edibles. Cool, whatever. Do your thing, right? However, after I finished battling, I guess I did so well that people literally like, "Yo, you want something?" I'm like, whoa, this is different. I wasn't expecting this. To the point where the dude who was selling the edibles kept asking me, like, yo, you want one? I'm like, he said, it's on me. I'm like, no. Like, what didn't you get from what
when I said no the
So
first
eating
time.
edibles is definitely against the church. Like the church is not
it's
co-signing
against
edibles.
what I'm concerned about.
Okay.
So I'm not going to do that in that venue because if let's say I do eat edibles, right? Which I don't. But let's say I do eat edibles and I do it in that venue after I just said what I said about Christ and all this other kind of stuff, then now just as RAINE said, now you get judged again. So
Do
it's
the
like
two have to be
you
mutually
were-
exclusive?
I don't think that they do, but I understand
Not
like
necessarily.
managing the
Okay.
image that you're putting out there.
Sweet.
Like I understand it from that point of view.
Right. I have an image that I want to keep. And so for that image, whatever crosses bounds or boundaries, I'm not with it. And it's just that simple. I don't care about I'm not swayed by peer pressure either. So you could try all you like. It's like you're trying for no reason. You're wasting your breath. So for me, that's not something I would do. However, I'm going on camera and saying this. Now, I do drink every once in a while.
Cheers.
Because I slow down.
Oh, great. I don't feel terrible about breaking out the bullet then.
Nah.
I mean, don't they have wine in church? Like,
What's wrong with her?
aren't they
Sorry.
did they
Catholic.
drink wine
Catholic.
in the Bible though?
How
Like, isn't it?
Yeah.
Aren't there
Certain
instances
things,
where
right?
like so like
I mean, there are instances where the Bible actually says if you're feeling under the weather, I'm paraphrasing, drink wine,
bro,
or drink
and I
this.
drink dark every
So-
day to make sure that I'm feeling all right. See, it's lit.
I was gonna say when
Bumba
he
club.
said and he was offering
and so now he's
edibles,
cursing.
Yeah.
the first thing you said was that goes against the church.
I said it does it. It was a question.
Yeah, he asked.
because I know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
I'm
asked.
questioning.
No, I thought you said, well, that definitely doesn't go with the church.
Yeah, no, I'm asking because like I don't know if I don't feel like the two should be mutually exclusive. Like of course you're way more knowledgeable in that field than I am, but like when I pray and in my heart, in my soul, I don't feel like God would frown upon me indulging in some marijuana. I don't think he's mad at me for that. Could I get there and he'd be like, yo, you was dead ass wrong? Absolutely. But I'm saying in my heart of hearts, I don't feel like,
And I agree.
There's a lot of things I feel like he would be more angry at than me having marijuana. Us believing in him having beef with somebody, I think is super disrespectful.
But I think
or putting human emotions on him, I think is way more disrespectful than me having, saying he's angry. Like,
I think it's dangerous when we start to personally quantify what is offensive to God and what it's not. And I'm not.
Isn't that what religion is itself?
But here's what I'm saying: God is a man of order, not of confusion. The Bible says that. So, I don't. I can't talk about colorism,
but it depends on what your definition of order and confusion is, right?
And I was just about to make that point. I get to quantify what confusion is, and you get to quantify what confusion. You get to define it. But what I'm saying, we can't just pick things here and there and be like, I don't think this, but I think that. I think, for example, in the black community, right? There is this pervasive thing around homosexuality and the criticizing of people who want to be with the same sex.
And there's no way that God co-signs that. Absolutely. I don't care who tells me that.
Okay, we can talk about the book of Leviticus and Numbers and all that, what the Bible says. However, the Bible also says no sin is greater than the other. The Bible also says if you lie, you steal, you're an adulterer, all those things, they're just as bad as homosexuality. So why then you are choosing one particular thing that you want to harp on and you want to put out there that is the most pervasive and invasive sin? God didn't say that.
But I think we can go down a rabbit hole.
I think that's the thing that makes me question a lot about how it is that we sit relative to the idea of understanding religion, right?
I don't follow religion. I'm spiritual.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And whether this is not, and when I say we, this is not personalizing it because I know your holy spirituality very close to you, so I don't want to
What did you just say?
No.
All I heard was no.
Should know I'm a spirituality.
All I heard was no.
This is my Afro-Caribbean sister. Leave her alone.
But the same way that I think the world puts energy toward homosexuality and not to adultery, essentially. This is why I don't think I accept. So I'm going to say something, and this is going to sound crazy.
Yeah, say a thing.
I've taken time to read the Bible. I don't know if I can accept the way that the Bible has transformed from its original form to today, right? Mm-hmm. So, which has led me, and I feel like I've shared this off air, but has led me to question, I believe that there's a God, but I don't. The same thing that you say about cussing, I think I challenge everything that I hear, that I've learned about the foundation of my spirit,
which is never a bad place to be in.
Right.
So keep going.
But when we get to this place, when we get to the place of speaking about personalizing things for God, I think it's difficult not to, because I think if it is that you're not challenging from your point of view or your understanding of how it is that you think God would want you to lead this life.
He said, lead not to your own understanding, because only He can direct your path. So I think what I'm saying.
Proverbs 3 and 5.
Yeah. What I'm saying.
Yeah, but necessary. But who says that someone necessarily subscribes to that? That's a book that's written by a man. That's just a man, just like me. So for that man to be able to write down his beliefs and the thing that he feels, my beliefs and my feels are just as equal to yours. Man that lived 3,000 years ago. And forgive me, man, that lived 3,000 years ago. I'm a little bit smarter than you were, because I live now. So forgive me for not going by your blueprint that you wrote, man, from 3,000 years ago. Because if I wrote a book now and you read that 3,000 years from now, you'd think Kobe Bryant was the greatest person ever. But if you wrote a book and someone found it 3,000 years from now, Kobe Bryant might not even be mentioned in that book. So I can't blindly subscribe to something I'm spiritual and I subscribe to my spirituality. I know you know what's right and wrong. Everyone has that moral barometer to say what's right and wrong. But to say because in this book something says that's wrong, chill, bro. In that book it says wearing mixed linens is wrong. So because this shirt is 40% polyester and 30% this, I'm going to hell now? That's crazy,
but
bro.
You also have to know you also have to know the historical context of what mixed linens are. So not everything is just surface level.
But isn't this a mixed linen though? If it says 40% polyester and 20% cotton, and that's a mixed linen.
I get you.
Things have denotative and connotative meanings.
Right.
And the Bible is interpretive. It's one of the greatest pieces of literature.
And that's all I was saying about with the marijuana. So I interpret it as I don't think he would interpret my usage of marijuana as a bad thing.
Oh, I'm not judging you on that.
Yeah,
that's just what I'm saying.
I ain't judging you either.
But I don't think that he could.
What she said, I can't quote the Bible, but something that you said about
not personalizing
God.
Lean not to your own understanding. That one.
That part, it was
Y'all can tell who read the Bible and who don't.
Yeah, there's a lot of verses going on in this episode. My mom's gonna be mad at me.
In the Bible, though.
What?
So, you saying that
I need to know
marijuana
this.
is not, it shouldn't be such a bad thing.
Yeah, I don't think that. I don't think that
But
is that.
essentially, what you just said, essentially, that the core of it is in the Bible.
Yeah.
Because you just said, basically, it's
All sin is the same sin.
Right,
essentially.
and that part, and the fact that I want to take the time to read the Bible because it's not just on the surface what you say. I think it's a collection of stories that were told.
They're parables.
It's not just
They're not
a
literal
man writing
stories.
his thoughts.
Not all of them.
Not all of them, but it's not just a man writing his thoughts, like how you said. I don't think it can be reduced to just some man.
But somebody
writing
had
his
to
thoughts.
write it though.
But it's under
Like-
the impression that it was inspired by
God.
God, definitely.
But but it still had. But
and not just one man.
if the medium's a man or the medium were men, then you have to take it with. Like judge it with a grain of
And-
salt
and,
because
like,
it's something
even-
that a man
but
gave us.
that-
So
and
it has
you
to be
saying
flawed.
that resonates
It can't
with
be
me.
perfect.
So there are some
like a
folk.
man gave this to us.
There's some folk that believe that God wrote the Bible. Period. And I'm like, that doesn't even begin to make sense.
Yeah, I think
okay,
God's
so
bigger than writing.
he used mediums such as human beings, right? And if you believe that it is God inspired, Holy Ghost inspired, that they wrote what they wrote, so that there could be some sort of moral living. Of course, we live in a perverse nation where people are going to take things out of context.
Absolutely.
They're going to do things. They're going to use the Bible. I mean, one of the greatest movies that I watched was the Book of Eli because it
That's so funny.
literally.
I literally just watched that day before yesterday.
It just came on
it
Netflix.
literally
It's a dope
talks
movie.
about how the power within the Bible. That's all the movie's about. It's like, how powerful is this Bible? The Bible's so powerful that one man sent all these goons to try to find it. One Bible. And who's the person that had it? Denzel Washington, whatever his character's name was. But
Shout out to Denzel.
Shout out to Denzel.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
But that's what it like. So then you can go throughout history, like the Crusades, for instance. Like they used the Bible and they killed all these people to try to make them into Christians, and then you have these alt-right communities and all these other folk that think, oh, this is how it's supposed to be, and we're gonna enslave black people and we're gonna use the Bible as a backing to do it. Like, come on, and then they switch it and make it Jesus white. How? It's no way possible a man born in the Middle East is going to be that color.
All of these things are the things that like causes me, and then especially recognizing that, understanding that this is something different from like spirituality, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the church was the first black business that existed as well, right? Which speaks volumes to just like how it is that the black community like reveres the church, but also the complexity and like that exists in the community.
I need, I guess, more info with that.
Yeah,
So
business. What do you mean by?
the church was the first black business?
It was because religion was essentially the thing that that our ancestors like held on to, right? And it was the first avenue that we were able to kind of find some type of liberation from those that enslaved us when it was that we moved to this country. So recognizing that like naturally like folks needed like faith, right? To cling to faith, but also then recognizing that was also your first access or ability to kind of like examine or create resources outside of that which was given to you. It was the first space that like blacks were able to organize and things of that nature. For me, like I think that speaks volumes to the way that we value like faith and spirituality, but it also speaks volumes to like the things that we were afforded or allowed during that time when like patriarchy was at its most dominant
See,
form.
that's a tricky thing that you're saying because I need more info, but from my standpoint, to say that it was the first black business, and which religion? I'm guessing I'm asking.
So, and this
Because
is
then
not
that's also-
it's not to cling to a specific religion. It's just that, like, at least I can state that I know with like 80% confidence that
Even
it was,
before
like,
farming?
that the church was the first.
Right.
Yeah.
Before farming?
I think
I don't
It was
know.
the first black business that blacks could
I don't know.
I think
I think we're giving ourselves a ceiling. Maybe black, maybe in this country, but like before, when we was back in America, we was getting money. Oh, all right, okay, yeah, like we was getting money.
I want to. What's your name again, brother? I'm sorry.
Carnegie Kid on the radio, but Sharif, if the government is listening.
Oh, God. I want to go back to something you said earlier. You were talking about how the Bible essentially is just a written document.
Yeah.
I can tell you it's much more powerful than that. Because when you talk about spirituality and connectivity to the Bible, the other day I was having an experience with God. And I've been reading, I grew up in the church, my family, they're ministers. I've never read the book of Joshua before. And one morning I got up 3 o'clock in the morning and God said, and when I say God said, for people who don't understand that kind of connection, they'll be like, so God literally came to you and spoke to you?
I know exactly what you mean.
It's something that sits in your spirit, right? And I went to Joshua 5 and I started reading. And what I pulled from, and before I even go to what I pulled from Joshua, I kept reading all the way to Joshua 10. And I was like, but God, you just sent me to Joshua 5. And I've never read the book of Joshua before. And what I got from that book is obedience, the theme word obedience, which spiritually, that's what God wanted me to have, wanted me to know the importance of obedience. And so if I were to just reduce the Bible to say, oh, these are just collections of stories, or this is just a written document, there is a deep connectivity to the Bible when we talk about spirituality and a person's function and their morals that God himself can guide you into. So we don't want to I don't want to say like cavalierly just say, well, it says this and it says this too, and I don't think he will judge me on this. You have to be led by the Spirit. You have to be led by that connection with God, that relationship. It's an individual thing. So I don't get caught up in like, I need to go to church. No offense, Pastor. I don't need to come to church and hear Pastor tell me nothing.
Amen.
I don't need to hear anything from Pastor.
Absolutely.
I need to go on my knees, and God will direct me to what he wants me to know. Because belief is something that's individual. Your belief system is an individual thing. However, there are certain things that are just right, and it's just wrong.
And that's all I'm saying is that in my inner barometer, in my heart of hearts, when I get down on my knees and I speak to God, God doesn't tell me that
Smoking marijuana
is bad.
I'm mad you still there.
Honest to God. No.
I think
that's just one thing for me to point to.
I don't think my God says so.
What I'm saying is we only got 2 hours. I could go on and on and on and point to a bunch of things within these texts that make me feel like, I can't.
But I do also agree that things are surface, because it's funny how like the world, and I know that it's time for us to wrap up this segment.
My bad.
Nice segue, right? But
it wasn't no damn segue because you still doing it. Segway is to move on.
Like even this idea that we think that tithing is about giving to like 10%, and I keep going to that for some reason right now because I remember like me and my dad clung to the Bible, the one Bible that I still actually have next to like my bedside is his Bible.
That's a symbol.
And we had a conversation about tithing and I always remember that. But the other day I was having a conversation with friends and we who were speaking or speaking about other folks who were speaking at a very surface level about the idea of giving 10% of your income or your earnings to the church, which is what tithing is, right? Not taking into effect that, or not recognizing that currency today isn't what currency was then, right? And that we weren't trading cash. We were probably trading
crops. It was barter system.
So that nature. But the way that we interpret things based off of what we just hear, one, not reading and inferring for ourselves based off of our understanding. And you speak about it the Spirit leading you. And I think it's some say the Spirit, some say your values, whatever they may be. No, those are two separate things. But the big idea here is that it's all left for interpretation based off of what the depth of your understanding is, right? And if you think that tithes are just about financial resources and not thinking about what it is that even you could give from just your personal being, then you're only going to see it as such. But I feel most of us in this world only see the Bible that way, right? But was that the intent, right? Because then there's also a real question as to was the goal here to leverage the Bible as a way of controlling the minds of those who could.
I know you're going to move on, but I think there is danger in this constant questioning of things that are. They are. Yeah. Things that are just. Cut it out, brother.
Accept
There's
they
danger
just are.
in No,
because that book tells me that
danger
if you aren't a Christian, that you're gonna go to hell. So that means the majority of people that have ever been on this planet would not be in a. It's the only way to the Father is through the Son. So if you're not a Christian, that like, so you're gonna tell me somebody that's a Muslim, somebody that was born in the Middle East, who you have like literally no chance of being converted to Christianity, is gonna like that.
But I'm not even talking. I'm not even speaking about Christianity. I never even mentioned that term.
You know why?
But Joshua, those scriptures are from King James Bible, right?
What is a version?
Right?
A version.
The Bible, and you seem like you're connected to the Bible, even though you said that you're spiritual. It seems like it's coming across, I guess, like you are Christian, or you know.
But no,
okay. So
no, but
everybody,
those are verses from. I mean, I don't know what to call a Christian Bible.
From the Bible.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, how can you like? I don't.
Yeah, but you were sparing off into like
somebody,
Islam and all that. I'm not one of those people going to be like, oh, so if you don't ascribe to the book of Matthew, if you don't do this,
isn't that not what that book says? Like, if you're not, the only way to the Father is through the Son. So like, if you aren't a Christian, you're not going to heaven. Like, that's crazy to me, man.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So here's the thing. Last point.
My bad.
Right, because we done went to the church.
It's good conversation,
it's not,
man.
I gotta get my Molly Caramel.
I have this thing, right, because I'm also in school for getting my master in divinity. So I'm in a very liberal school as well. So this conversation is just very normal. There are Christians who, you know, have the same idea you have, right? There are Christians who have the same ideas that you have, and you. So, long story short, there's so many wavering thoughts about what is not, and I put it like this: we are too small, we are too finite, we are too fallible to understand all the intricacies or the vastness of God Himself or God herself or just God in general, right? So when if I say God the Father in my school, people look at me sideways and like, no, He could be a her, or it could be a her. So I'm like, well, it's a he to me. That's how I know him.
It's a girl to me.
Because it's a he to me. So regardless, if let's say he is non-binary for whatever, like let's just say he is, right? Okay, is he gonna be mad at me because I called him a he? No, I don't see that. I don't see that at all happening. So my thing is, I think we're just too finite and we're trying to understand a grand God with small minds. Yeah. We don't even use all of our minds as human beings. We don't use our entire brain as a human being. Yeah, so then, how can we really comprehend anything or God in His totality for everything that He does and how we are, His creation and whatnot? How can the creation know the Creator?
I think
fully.
that's real.
And fully.
I think it's a good way to stop.
My bad.
It's a good way to just leave it where it is.
See.
And final.
And final.
Is that the segment? Is that how we transition segments?
Well, I mean, you ain't gotta be smooth with it. We just move on to pretty much the culture in the week. I wanted to ask, did you guys see the film When They See Us on Netflix?
Absolutely.
I finally did.
No.
You did? You didn't?
No.
Parts of it.
Some of it?
It took a while.
I watched on the way here.
Yeah, on the way here? Yeah.
Oh.
I binged it.
So, yeah, I watched it on one take.
I mean, I honestly, are we going to...
Yeah, just off the rip, yeah.
I started watching it when it first came out, but I just can't get past, like, I know the first episode is, like, the hardest, they say, or something like that.
Yeah.
Well,
some people range.
I can't get past the bullshit of, like, it's too much...
Shitty policing?
That, and now I'm at the part where the father is telling his son to lie. I can't get past that. Yeah. It's like all of that is just, I'm trying to get through it. My brain won't allow me just to sit through that shit.
Yeah, so
I'm trying to, but it's just, I can't even get to the emotional parts because this part is just, it just annoys me.
What is keeping you stuck?
The fact that, for one, that just watching cops do what cops do, and just you know, the fact that they treated children like that,
Yep.
you know, because they were black. The fact that this woman was on this, you know,
she had whole book deals and shit.
Creating storyline. Like at 9 o'clock they were here, so we have to make. How can they get there? Well, it happened, so it had to.
Like no one said that was
my brain
that was
can't
wrong.
get with
They
it.
were
I can't
wilding.
get with it. I just can't. I'm trying. Like I was struggling. Because now in this era, I have become a part of this era to a degree where I just can't sit my brain. I don't have a long attention span for that shit. Mm-hmm. So that's what it is. Like I can't get past, and I just don't like it. Like it's not moving well to me. I'm just like, this just seems like some BS, man. Like I just can't watch this shit.
Well, watching it for me, and it's funny that you mentioned like you had a tough time watching the scene where the father was telling his son to lie. So it was like that was watching it in its entirety. Like it just made me think about, you know, just reliving that, because the person you're referring to is Bobby McCray. That's my cousin, but also my dad's nephew.
Okay.
So
I did not know
I
that.
wondered if you were going to share.
Yeah, I was going to share. I told my dad I was going to share. And the funny thing is, Tronny McCray, which he was adopted, right? So given that, and most people, casual viewers, they didn't know that, but he was adopted, and he was a great baseball player, as they kind of like explained in the movie. Mm-hmm. But one thing, it was true that Bobby, or George is what we call him, he was, you know, ignorant to the fact of, you know, the law, you know, and also, which was apparent with Yusef's mom, because she actually came in the middle of the interrogation to stop that, because essentially they weren't supposed to do that.
Yeah,
and
just like
yeah, and that was the crazy part. And I remember vividly, like my dad and I had a conversation about this. He remembered talking to George or Bobby on the show in the movie, was like, you know,
which is the dad, right?
Which is the dad. Essentially, like, listen, what you did wasn't the best thing, but also this is what the system is. So you need to understand that you can't. We pretty much gave your son into the system. Mm-hmm. And as you can see,
when you say he passed,
yeah, he passed. And that's the whole thing too. Like, you know, it was just a bit over embellishment with the whole, you know, how he had the high top and all that stuff. He was a bit more of a fashionable dude, but also more knowledgeable and more caring for his kids. That was the main narrative that they didn't depict in that film, was the fact that he was a caring father. And that kind of like
TV though.
I don't know if I took away that he wasn't though.
It was. I mean,
it probably felt different though.
And I'll explain why. Because
scared,
definitely, but also the after effect of watching the Exonerated Five speak to Oprah, and how Tronny just said his father was a coward, and how he was, things like that.
Was that him who he started crying?
Yeah, that was the.
But he said he hates his father.
Yeah, that was him.
This is in real life, he's saying
yeah.
that?
Yeah.
So, he said that on the
on the panel.
Yeah, on the panel when Oprah interviewed them.
And of course, I mean that.
But where are they now?
Exactly. Yep. And that kind of like circulated within my family, and they kind of felt some type of way about that. And
they need therapy though.
Clearly.
She
And I just and I just think Oprah asked the wrong questions. Yes. I don't know. I just feel like
she asked what was going to get ratings.
Yeah, and I feel like we're sensationalizing the trauma of these gentlemen. Like I feel like that it was a lot to watch.
But aren't they active participants?
They are, but at the same time, it's.
What do you mean? Do they know
they decided to do it? They wouldn't have been able to do it if they didn't agree to it.
Now you're at the Essence Fest. Shout out to the Essence Fest. I don't know. And people have these T-shirts on with your names on it.
Well, that's actually through one of the gentlemen.
Right. So you're talking about it's the whole story, right? It's polarized now and it's out there, but they're a part of it. They want it to be out there.
No, I was just referring to more so the questioning, as far as I feel like she was asking the wrong question.
I think if anything,
cold, man. Anyway,
yeah.
Like as someone who does what she does, I just part of it is I guess somewhat commendable to like be that emotionalist, but it's kind of like it's whack as fuck.
Economics
she's a robot
doesn't
now.
deal
Like she's so out of touch.
You're just
emotionally detached.
She don't have no
Definitely
emotion. She a fucking robot.
To me.
If I can,
a robot.
I I can't.
And I know that this is going to be the least popular opinion around this. I don't necessarily know if it's that she's emotionless, right? And this is not for me to speak on Oprah's behalf, but I think
seemingly
got it. But I oftentimes think that like when we are speaking about like dealing with something, addressing it, asking questions about it, experiencing it, we're experiencing it from the things that like we feel about it, right? And if I think like even with the Michael Jackson thing, if she walked into that conversation thinking that they were victims, then her line of questioning was going to come from that point of view.
But,
just like
but wait, as a journalist, right? That is what you have a choice.
Word.
So that's why not to like go off, but as a journalist, right? So I didn't bash her until I heard the questions, because in my mind I'm like, okay, that's good that she's interviewing the accusers, because as a journalist you have a route, right? You want to get to the truth, but you also want to choose what you're putting out there. So she had a choice to look at them as victims or a choice to look at them as accusers, and she looked at them as victims. So that's what I have a problem with, because then your journalism is based on that route. That's what I'm saying.
And that I completely understand that point, because I feel like she has a responsibility as a journalist as well.
Absolutely. Your integrity is on the line when you put things out there like that. You're supposed to do your due diligence to research things before you just.
But there's something about the human. But then there's something about the human aspect of like the approach that we take based off of our personal connections to things anyway. Whether or not it be like she might have had a personal stance about like. Anton like not receiving the type of support that he should have, so her line of question would have made it seem as though like it was a child left in the wind by his parents. Not saying that like it was right or wrong. I'm just saying that sometimes, like not sometimes, but that's how the human psyche is set up. When you have a personal feeling about something, sometimes the approach that you take, and she wasn't particularly looking at the dad as the victim in this story, which is why like I also feel like you are going to scrutinize it a little bit more closely than we would, because of like your personal connection to it too. If that makes any sense, because I think even from like this point of view, anyone who would have watched that film should have seen that family was just like like New York City was just in a shitty place. Like black people in New York City were just not in, like they weren't safe, right? They were people who were targeted. They were people who were taken advantage of. And if it was that you didn't have the knowledge, like didn't know about the world of policing, then you could have easily fell into that. And I know like
desperation.
Many people who like succumb to those types of things because like they think they're making a safe choice. I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm saying like the tangent was about protecting Oprah, not protecting her, but seeing a different side to like her line of questioning.
Fuck with Oprah no more.
Well,
y'all don't. Auntie Oprah.
Oprah no more.
If
Oprah, you not friends here. You not welcome here no more, Oprah.
If I can just
you get a car. You get a car.
Please give me one.
Come through a car.
She serves a purpose, though.
Yeah, she definitely does. I want to say what I binged watched the 4-part series of When They See Us, and I'm heavily rooted in stories like that. Simply one reason is because it happened 4 blocks from where I grew up. Yeah. That's number one. Number two, it just, as a black man, I want to know. So I want to know as much as I possibly can. As a pastor, I need to know. So with that being said, the depiction of what happened was absolutely horrible. I know that's not very eloquent, but it's just that simple. It's just absolutely horrible. And it wasn't just the police, and all police aren't bad. Shout out to the state trooper that pulled me over the other day. He was dope. I'm no gas. He was very dope. They're not all bad. But long story short, I think that we need to well, there was already conversations about what was going on, but we need to get past conversations and actually start doing something about how some of these people that are in place of power, such as police officers, such as DAs and judges and things of that nature, because clearly these boys had no evidence. There was no evidence to convict them except their bullcrap statements that they gave because they were in a room such as this one with a cop sitting across the table from them telling them that they need to do this so they can go home. If that's the case, then clearly something needs to happen to those individuals. So I'm glad I'm glad that they're stripping Linda,
whatever her name is.
Right, Fairstein. I think
she lost her publishing.
But the damage is already done.
The damage is done. But now wait. The damage is done to those boys, but they were living carefree after the damage was done. But now they're getting the effects of what they did. So now they're getting some things taken away from them.
Yeah, but this entire situation is bigger than the individual cops and Fairstein, right? It's
Absolutely.
a systematic issue. So even
it's
if
deeply rooted.
she has a pension, she lived the last 30 years drama-free, whatever, she's not going to go to jail. I don't see it happening.
I don't see that happening either.
So I don't.
They have enough things to do.
There is no real consequence because, like he says, his cousin, his life is forever changed. He's never going to be the same. He's a young man that was at the mercy of a system that broke him.
Absolutely.
And not only him, but all of them. And that's something that, whether she goes to jail, which she's not going to, I don't think so. If she dies tomorrow, whatever happens with these people who made this decision 30 years ago, it's none and void. It doesn't matter now. Because the damage is already done.
Okay, damage is done, but there is still some healing process. So yeah, there's one young man who said that he hates his father. Apologized to even know that that's a part of your family and things are circling in your family. But there's also another part that there are 4 other individuals that were, and some of them have healed from the trauma that they experienced from going to jail for something they did not do. So I totally get where you're coming from. Like, yeah, there was damage done, and there are a part of them that's not going to heal. But there is still a healing process that can take place and has taken place and will continue to take place. And I still don't believe that this lady should just continue carefree in her life. Yeah, strip her from her publishing, strip her from, she used to go to school in Mount Vernon, I believe. They stripped up all that stuff.
Her professorship.
All of that. Good. I know it's not going to equal, it's not going to equal up to what happened. But something has to happen.
But what happened to those boys is bigger than her.
And
it's bigger than her.
I'm not saying it isn't at all. I hope that's not coming across.
The solve that's being sought out, or even if it's not a solve, the next step is being sought. Like, I think it's beyond the settlement, right? It's beyond the they stripped her of her shit.
Yeah, money doesn't heal anything actually.
But I think even as a people, we have to challenge and seek more, right? Like we have.
That's what I said right off the bat.
Whether or not it's George Zimmerman, all these people who are still living, right?
Educate young boys not to be NBA players, but to be lawyers and DAs and judges.
Well,
so equitability could be in the system, so they don't always have to be at the mercy of the system. Because one of the reasons why they're at the mercy of the system, because they don't have people within the system who are up top who looks like them, who represents them.
I agree, but I think there are some that are
very true, but
on that track.
Until we challenge a very skewed perspective of thinking about what it means to be on top when you get on top, because then you have instances like Meek Mill, right? Who thought he was going to solicit the support of someone who looked the same color as him, but then but now he called her name out in a song. And I think until
there's Toms, there's gonna be Toms everywhere. That's gonna happen.
There's gonna be more Toms than not if Black folks continue to advance without recognizing and or thinking through the things. Yeah,
about being in
mindset,
positions of power, and still not having that connection. That,
connectivity with.
That
life.
Because you look like me, that I should just give you a level up. Why not? If you qualify, why why am I?
It's
But
not
it's because our school
instilled.
systems
It's
are-
not instilled within our communities. In the other
not.
communities, it's almost second nature. No one even has to tell you that. It's
But
automatically
partly
known.
because
I
our
see
school
me and I help it.
systems-
It's almost the opposite with us. I see me and I reject it.
But
I-
partly
so-
because our school systems are teaching like our children to assimilate as opposed to teaching them to disrupt and figure out ways that
Shit,
they
that's bigger
find
than
purpose
school
and
system. That's
participate in the
Massa.
world.
Massa gave us that.
Yeah,
No,
why-
Massa
but
told
the
us
reason
that.
why I'm going to the school system is because that's the one place where we can get a cohort of people together to kind of teach them something, right? Like you can't do that to individual households.
Possibly.
So, like for me, I feel like the work that you do as educators is very, very important and critical. This is why I always speak about even finding alignment, like even like amongst us with the way that we look, because sometimes it's just about showing that like one, we could do that thing, and then like disrupting the images that are created, and then we can move and tackle the next issue.
I think
didn't
what
mean to
1
bring it to
minute.
that,
One
but-
okay, 1 minute. I think what happened in we're just limited this conversation to the African American experience. We're not even talking about the global oppression of Black people, right? We're just talking about police
Shit, how can you
brutality
talk
in
about
America.
one without the other?
Not necessarily
You can't talk about one
But
without
I
the
think
other.
that's what's happening right here. But if we want to talk about global oppression, he said 1 minute. I think one thing I will
30
say about
seconds.
30 seconds. What you making me nervous now, and I'm my thoughts are getting all
You down to
jumbled.
20.
I think
22.
you can give back more time because he's taking away your
22
time.
So
seconds.
one of the main issues I think is happening within the Black community that used to be and it no longer exists is that communal identity that you were talking about. You alluded to it. You said when I see my own now I'm just like or when I see I'm like come in, right? Because even though you're Black, there are different status within Blackness. And you garner your own narrative. We used to joke around and I'd be like, you're from the Bronx, okay? And you start, and you hear these things as someone who partially grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland. It's
Word.
just like, okay, the Bronx is a little different from Silver Spring, Maryland. So I already have these things in my mind already, and we share one thing in common already. We're Black. But I already have narratives in my mind already. He has narratives in his mind, and that kind of helped to create separatism and ideas that I'm telling you, it dictates how you function, how you deal with people, how you interact
agree.
with people. And so regardless of, like you were saying, Q, about you can have people who look like you in position of power, but the look is not the issue. When we talk about diversity, it's merely about pigmentation. We're talking about the thinking, the philosophy, the understanding, the breaking down.
Yep.
You understand? So those things are very important. And you, only you, is in control of how you see things, how you interpret things, how you interrogate things, because you can choose to do it from a moral perspective, you can choose to do it from a racial perspective, you can do it from a gender perspective, whatever. They're nuance to it.
And
Yeah.
scene.
See,
Way to close out.
Yeah, you guys are on the money with the closeouts. But to segue into our main topic of discussion, colorism. I actually had a way of segueing. I was going to use free agent.
Let me get this.
I was going to use the free agency to kind of segue smoothly. But
wait, you was gonna use free agency
Yeah.
to talk about colorism?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know how he's going to do
How?
that. He's
Automatic
about to be
Leonard.
How?
the
Let
GOAT.
me show
free
you.
agents
Let
was
me
there.
show you how. So, well, not necessarily using a free agent, but using
Danny Green did get mad money for no reason.
Just
Why?
because
Because
he
he's light
likes
skinned.
skin.
I was like $30 million for Danny Green. What the fuck?
Light skin is getting paid.
He deserves it.
$30
But,
million. I
um,
love you, Danny. Danny Green's my man's. So like by association, and he grew up in New York, so he fucks with you, but not for 30 mil, dog.
But
Where is he going?
Why?
He's
To
going to
Lakers,
the
'cause we could've
Lakers.
got you
The
for like
Lakers?
25.
We, you're a Lakers fan?
Yeah, so 25
I'ma turn
would
my-
have gave us
I'ma turn
another
my
five
chair this
back
way,
up
man.
there. Listen, like,
Oh.
Sorry, camera.
listen, I'm 20 plus years in.
Oh, you a ride or die. Okay,
we
so I'll give you that.
25
I'll
years
give you
in
that.
there. We
You're
not-
a Knicks fan, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All day, every day, no matter what happens, it's all
yeah.
Knicks.
That disclaimer is needed.
True.
No matter what happens.
No matter what
even
happens.
if they don't
That's
win.
the only way you could be a Knicks fan. Like it ain't if you like you ain't no fair weather. Nah, what I'm saying is anybody who's a real Knicks fan, you know, like I don't even gotta question you.
very
You ride or die.
It's
like,
a
'cause
fact.
You riding with
It's
it. Like,
straight
it
loyalty
ain't like you
all
just
day.
jumped on a
It's
bandwagon.
like being a Mets fan.
I'm that too.
Exactly. I know that. I remember that.
Yeah.
I'm real.
Yo, we
It's
smoked
like
y'all. I was gonna let you live. I wasn't even gonna say nothing about it.
So
but
don't
yeah,
say
we
anything.
beat up on y'all the other day, like last week.
Damn, I
Oh
missed
yeah,
my sound
we
effects,
beat up
man.
we beat up on y'all too. So you
Thank
know,
you.
come on.
Appreciate that.
I'm a Braves fan, so
Braves, my fault.
Yeah,
You thought it was
Forget
Yankees?
it. Forget it. Yeah, I thought
beating
you
up
was
on y'all
Yankees.
for about 20 years. Yeah, nah.
I think he's talking about the Yankees.
So that's why I don't even come at him with that energy because it's about time for them. So it's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
All right, so how you gonna do this?
How I was
How you
gonna
gonna do this?
segue this, right? Right. So I was gonna talk about NBA free agency, and then I was gonna bring it back to Golden State. And there's a particular light skinned person they have on that team.
That makes sense.
So with Steph Curry, right? I was watching Undisputed the other day alongside my crying couple weeks old son,
Bryson.
And, Bryce.
Bryce was mad at that.
He was. But I think he likes Klay Thompson. For some reason, I think it's his favorite player.
You like Klay Thompson.
Oh,
trying to
my God.
project
Yo,
that
you
onto
know what's
young
crazy?
Bryce. Don't do that to him. Let him make his own.
You were like a dummied down version of Klay Thompson in college.
Thanks,
so
man.
That makes,
I appreciate
that.
that.
Makes sense.
Thanks.
Only want to shoot threes, right? All day. Threes. Oh, my bad.
Threes win championships, though, right?
Yo,
You ain't lying.
Remember that
You
one
ain't
game?
lying.
All right.
Definitely, yeah.
Thank
Nah.
you.
one. Yes,
so what
I
were
remember
they saying
one.
about Steph Curry?
All right. Anyway, moving forward, singing and dunking and stuff. Anyway, so, all right. So, anyway, on Undisputed, right? They were discussing why everybody hates Stephen Curry, right? So, a particular person. Sure, you can have one. And Chris Broussard, he mentioned the reasons why they may not like him because the way he was raised. You know, he has two parents in the household.
Who are both light skinned.
Yeah, both light skinned. Exactly, right? And also the fact that, you know, he has his family, has a great wholesome family. He's, you know, raised in the church, things of that nature. And the fact that, you know, he's a skillful player, but they also feel that all of these accolades that he's receiving is not really warranted because he hasn't really proven himself to be a winner. However, on top of that, he's light-skinned.
He got 3 rings and
That's
he proved
called
himself
drugs.
to be a winner.
That's-
Nobody was mad at Delonte West, and Delonte West was 3 shades lighter than Stephen Curry. Nobody cared about Delonte West because he didn't win.
And 20
Niggas mad
shades
at Steph
crazier,
Curry, yeah,
but-
niggas mad at Steph Curry because he wins and he's light skinned and he's pretty. And it's like, yo, I'm a big 6'9", 260-pound goon, and this little 170-pound soaking wet light skinned dude is out here killing me. That's why niggas is mad.
So,
For real,
and
like,
to-
it ain't about light-skinned.
I'm not gonna
There's a bunch
lie.
of light-skinned players in the league, like.
And to add on to that, sorry, he also continued on saying this goes back to the slavery times, which we discussed earlier. You know, the crabs in the barrel and the field Negro and the house Negro. And I was just curious as to know, is colorism a thing? Where in the no, I'm just in the NBA, not in
Well, gee.
in the NBA, because it goes to Reef and I had this discussion as far as like the NBA is trying to paint or trying to sell an image as far as like who they give the MVP to. So it made me think the last person who won MVP this year was Giannis Antetokounmpo, and he was light skinned, but
He's not light skinned.
but I'm just
I mean, well, nah, he ain't.
he's
You
he's
was about to say he was like,
brown, yeah.
He's
not
I'll
light
say he
skinned.
brown.
So is the conversation specific to the NBA? Is the
No, it's
the
not-
question around colorism specific to the NBA
I was
or
just
just
about to
period?
ask.
no, it's period. But I was just using the NBA as an example of introducing the
shout out to this
Got it.
Trident gum.
yeah.
Sorry.
Watermelon twist.
Oh my
the
gosh,
greatest
I'm so
ever.
hungry. This is like
Yo.
actual food. Sorry.
But yeah, that's all good.
Can I
Go ahead.
I was watching something else. It was one of those type shows as well, but it was about the NFL. And there was one dark skinned guy who said the NFL breeds black men to go out and find a white woman
Absolutely.
so that they can have light skinned babies. This was his words.
Absolutely.
And I was so like, and my jaw dropped. I was like, what? And he said, yeah. And of course, he did not ascribe to a white woman. Of
course.
So he was just like, no, I love my black women, whatever. But he was saying like the in NFL locker rooms, it's a thing where they're trying to find lighter women so they can make light-skinned babies because that's like the American dream.
Duh.
And I was like, wow. So yes, colorism is a thing. I don't know why in the world they hating on Steph. Like, you just judge the man for his skill and not anything else. It's just
It just made me do a lot of reflecting too, because I realized I'm a dark skinned person and I hate on
you just realized that, my man.
And you hating on Steph because he likes skin?
No. Drake.
lie.
He hates on Drake.
Drake. I realized I hate on Drake.
He's
Not
like
because he's
white, though.
light skinned, but he's
I
just
did.
corny to me.
I did at one point, and I got over
warranted, though. Like, you could be corny and light skinned. Like, Drake, you a dweeb, son. Like, you mad.
But the
nice.
thing
You
is,
can be
that's what I'm
dark
saying.
skinned and corny.
But you don't dislike him because he's light skinned. There's a difference. You happen to dislike someone that is light skinned.
Well,
you're not looking at him
I
like
don't know
that
if-
goddamn fair skinned. You know what I'm
I don't
saying?
know
Like,
if
you're
it's
not thinking in those terms.
I don't know if it's always conscious, if I could say.
Ooh.
That's a
I don't-
very good point.
Ooh.
That's a very good point.
And like so, which is why I asked whether or not it was
Go ahead.
specific to the NBA, because I think
Yeah.
even recognizing like where colorism exists in the world, it's completely subconscious, and it's something that has been like bred in us for years and years and years and years and years. So we don't sometimes recognize that like we take comfort to like folks who have like more Eurocentric ideals. I don't think that people are saying like, nah, I don't mess with that person because they're like dark skinned and I prefer light skinned people. There are some people in the world that do that.
Some people
I
come out
think-
blatantly and say it.
Yeah, I went to Penn State. It was very very evident.
Which one?
The main
State
campus.
College?
And
Shout outs to you, smart girl. Keep going.
Forgive
Penn
me.
State didn't
Nitty
Forgive me.
Lions. I used to think Nitty Lions was funny when I was a
Me
kid.
too.
'cause
I
was
still
like,
do.
Because what's the
Knit,
nitty
titty
line?
line.
knit, knit.
I thought it was Titty Lions. So then I was
He
You
a
thought
freak
it was
joint.
Titty Lions?
I was in like 3rd grade. I was like,
The fuck?
Titty Lions.
It's because it rhymes, I guess.
Yeah, I was in 3rd grade, but yeah, finish.
But even I think even with like people that folks hire, I think even men, I think it was very evident when you look at like football, like NFL pictures or photos and things of that nature back in the day. When you look at music videos back in the day, like the images that were glorified were those that were like that appealed more to Eurocentric ideals. I'm going hard because I shared with y'all a 10-page paper that I wrote in college around colorism, and I just reviewed it for my notes, so I got facts.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Let me hear something.
I didn't come correct with the facts.
Oh,
No. Wait, I just came across one. I gotta pull it out.
I got your money. I got your money, but it's not on me right now.
20, 40, 60.
No, because I literally had just referenced a statistic that showed that there were black men who there was a study that was done where black men said that they when they like had identified like. And the reason why I go to this example because it's showing how it exists in life, right? I grew up in the Caribbean. It was very easy for children to be speaking about wanting to have a child that's lighter skinned or with good hair. That was a very, very natural conversation. Coming here is only when I recognize that like, oh shit, we don't like ourselves, right? and then but even here, like when we moved beyond the conversation of good hair, it was just so many other things that just kind of hid that was used as different language or other context to kind of define things that we didn't recognize was causing us to hate, like to dislike our own kind, right? We even use things like loud and things of that nature because we think that like being quiet and docile is like something that's more Eurocentric. Like so even when they're stereotypical when they're words that are used to kind of stereotype like certain black women with specific ideals, I just feel like it has been something in the making for a long time.
Yeah.
When you pay attention to what was put out in media outlets, it was something that was very evident. When you pay attention to like what was, the one thing that was referenced in here was the Kyrie Davis experiment that happened in 1970s originally, but that was then redone in the 2000s, where all these black kids with the dolls, where the black kids were selecting the dolls, and there's a quote that I have in this paper where the kid said she selected the doll because the black doll was bad. Why was the black doll bad? Because she's black, right? These are things. These are children that were 5 years old, and at 5, you learn to hate yourself, and like we're having questions about whether or not colorism exists. Jack and Jill, you had to pass a paper bag test. The AKAs, let's get to it. Like you had to pass a paper bag test because you needed to show that you were at least lighter than a paper bag.
Wait, to get in Jack and Jill, you needed to.
Yeah.
Jack and Jill, you had to be a certain
You
color
had to
too?
pass the paper bag test.
For Jack and Jill too?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
It's not a fact, but it's a stereotype.
Wow, I know people that's in Jack and Jill
Yeah,
too.
me too. That's
and
how
I got invited. I don't pass the test though.
Clearly you did.
Hell no, the fuck I don't.
You would definitely
I took a
pass.
picture of it one time to prove y'all because we talked about it on the show on Friday. Go ahead.
You passed the test.
No,
bro.
I don't. I'm gonna show y'all right now. I took one.
It's okay.
What is this,
Next
Jack and
door.
Jill? What is this?
Jack and Jill's for the wealthy folk. they have some prestige in whatever sector that they work in, and then their children are in this community where they can grow up and marry folk within their Jack and Jill community.
And the blue vein test was another one that they had to pass at that time.
Oh, what?
The blue vein test, like if they looked at your arms and saw your veins and you were light enough.
Got it.
That was also said to be used by
Gina's complexion.
Darker than the bag.
It's the flash.
Darker than the bag.
Oh,
Show
you
the
really
darker
did.
than the bag. Yeah, because y'all was talking shit that day. I was like, hold on, I got one at home. Darker than the bag, B. This a fact.
The blue vein test?
A blue vein test is also another
Blue
one.
vein test.
No one hate.
I'm taking that. I'm taking that and running with it.
Anderson, what you was going to say?
Mrs. Anderson.
Right. I think two things. One, you don't consider
reference.
yourself to be a light-skinned brother.
Hell no.
Okay, cool.
I'm not. Chris Brown is light skinned.
You just said
Steph Curry is light skinned.
You just kind
I
of
ain't
set up
light-skinned.
like this was a battle. Like, okay, you just said you're not light skinned, right?
I'm
Okay,
not.
hold up. Drop that beat.
Ain't nothing wrong with
All
them.
right.
Ain't nothing
Hold
wrong with
up.
them. Shout out, Steph. You fly.
You
I'm
know he's
just not
about
on
to
your
spit some
team.
bars.
Do you think he's
Of course he light
I'm
skinned.
orange. Hell no. If I'm light skinned, you light skinned?
I ain't.
God, you ain't. Nah, there's shades. There
All
are
right,
shades.
so,
disclaimer,
yes.
light-skinned people are always
I'm brown.
in denial.
Exactly. I'm brown.
So you don't consider yourself to be
Light
light-skinned?
brown.
I'm
Oh,
orange.
you light brown. Why you think you don't want to carry, and I feel like you're deeming it as a burden. Why you don't want to carry that burden?
I was telling them yesterday, right? So there's two sides. Everything is twofold, in my opinion, right? So
I agree.
It's two sides to colorism.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, and then when you think about it, is it really two sides, or is it just levels, right? So you have whites who, you know, white supremacy perpetuates colorism first, initially, right?
Facts.
And then you have black on black, you know, oh, you're light skinned, you're light, the shades, right? So the other side of that, though, which I think black people as a whole always leave out when judging lighter skinned people. They look at the privilege of light skin, right? But the other side is the disrespect from people who look like you, downing you based on your complexion. The same way, it's just so asinine to be judged by your complexion by a black person. It's like the stupidest thing. I hate using that word.
Completely
That's just
agree.
Ignorant and stupid. You know, we joke and laugh when people say you acting light skin or act. That's
Where does it come from?
It's stupid.
From
Okay,
Massa.
so-
From Massa.
Right.
Because
So-
I use it
Agree.
That's
sometimes.
what
I
it
agree.
is. It's colorism.
Yeah.
It's-
I've used it
it's-
once or twice.
It's a mindset that says because you're dark skinned
Yeah.
that you are better in bed. Why?
What?
No.
Nah, it's Massa.
No, they-
Actually, I have a line
So-
for that too.
Yes.
The darker skin the darker skin.
Do you have the quote up, or do we have to
Oh, I
wait
can
for
find
it?
it. But that's
But
where the
it's
Jezebel and the Sapphire stereotype.
Oh.
But let's talk a little
Yeah.
bit about the
You said something about the darker skin female.
Oh yes, how like they oftentimes darker skinned females were the ones who are oftentimes classified as like the Jezebel, the Sapphire. One because like they were the ones who were targets for rape, but then two also because. But that was a stereotype that was pegged to them at that time.
But
So do we indict Tupac for saying the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice?
I don't
That's
think
just
he
a
was
saying.
talking about
that's
shadism.
that's
Yeah, that's
Um,
just a saying.
I think
That
it's
ain't.
empowering.
Wait, go ahead, Anderson.
Okay, so you were talking about the very origin of colorism. I was doing some research. The origin of colorism came in play during colonialism and all the other isms, imperialism and all that. But that wasn't the etymology or the origin of colorism. People in Greek, people in India, even on the continent, they've been engaging in the comparisons of skin tone way before the white man even came into play. However, what the white man did with colorism is it became ubiquitous. Now it's everywhere now because of colonialism, etc. If we look at the Haitian Revolution, there were like 123 different shades on the island. Okay? What I will say, I agree with you about the twofold to colorism. I am a dark-skinned woman who is a mother of a light-skinned girl. And I feel oftentimes darker-skinned sisters, they put this burden on lighter-skinned sisters, I know you don't want to identify, to carry, and it's this underlying hate because you are predisposed to certain privileges that you yourself had no control of,
Not
right?
only no control of, but sometimes not even cognizant of that privilege.
Well, that too.
what we do to whites?
Well, that too. But also, there are lighter-skinned sisters who lack the compassion and understanding to understand that darker skinned sisters, there is a struggle with the skin tone, right? And so when you talk about twofolds, I think that's the dichotomy, because I, as a dark skinned woman, I have no inferior complex about me, period. But that is not limited to my skin tone. That's just the type of individual that I am.
But but that's the same thing where me as a light-skinned woman, I feel the same way, right? And so we are a type of woman, right? A type of mindset, right? Sidebar, like Rihanna, right? I was telling her that Rihanna will be deemed light-skinned, right?
Right.
But one thing that a lot of times light-skinned people do, especially light-skinned people that have knowledge of self, they're blacker than black, meaning
Right.
like
Because they're trying to prove something.
not only prove because that's how I feel. I feel connected. I was taught early, to have a centricity. All black people as a whole do not have black centricity. That's the problem to me. I always voice that, because centricity just means that the core of the way you think is black first, not the world first. And a lot of times the black people as a whole, because of colorism, because of oppression and all these other things, and because of not being taught at a young age, you're not thinking black first. Me, I know that I'm a black woman. Black women in particular have something what they call triple threat oppression, right? Where we're judged by being black, we're judged by being a woman, and we're judged by our status in life, right? So we deal with three strikes, and I'm saying that a lot of times women, not even women, but the light skin, dark skin thing, if you're not in tune or you're not aware, right, you don't understand that it's twofold. So you don't understand that, okay, she's light skinned, she got, people like her because she's light skinned. And the light skinned woman that doesn't understand too, that, you're dark skinned, you're going through these burdens. But the dark skinned woman doesn't understand that the light skinned woman still goes through the same burdens in the workplace. Workplace, they don't see dark skin, light skin. They might see, they see it to a degree, but they see black.
Right. Period.
The world
Right.
So
sees
the
black.
same judgments are the same things are being placed on us. I just, I brought Rihanna because I was, just making a joke at how she uses the darkest emojis. Because so do I. Right? Because it's funny, but it's just like we're just saying that that's how black we feel we are.
Well, blackness. Well, you were talking about the mentality and the psychology of blackness. It's not limited to you trying to prove something with emojis and different things with darker and all that kind of stuff. Right. I'll say this as well. There can be no denying on lighter skinned people's part, whether it's a light skinned woman or a light skinned man, that there is privilege, upward mobility, there are social structures that are in place purely at your benefit. And I think one of the issues that darker skinned women or darker skinned people grapple with too, that causes this underlying anger towards lighter skinned people, and I'm not justifying
But
it,
not leveraging
is the
that
fact
privilege.
that you are not acknowledging, that's the first step, but secondly, being proactive to come together to do something about it.
Even that is twofold.
But does it?
Wait. Even that is twofold. So I'm saying that I'm that woman that is.
Okay.
There are many light-skinned women that are.
And I agree.
That's what I'm saying. It's a type of mindset. So that ignorance is only perpetuated by black people or black women who do not have that mindset, both dark skin and light skin.
A person's
you assume that a light skinned person has these privileges, right? Again,
it's not an assumption. Certain things are
but
reality.
Some of it is an assumption because at the gut of it, this light skinned woman is a black woman. And it's shades, right? So I'm not speaking as a high yellow light skinned woman with straight hair and green eyes. I'm just speaking as a woman who happens to be, light or red bone, whatever they want to call it. But I still have I'm still receiving a lot of the things that you are receiving.
Your point is well taken.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's twofold, and the mindset is the problem. So there are light-skinned women who embrace that, who love it, who.
Because no one wants to give up their privilege. Let's be real.
But there are also right, but that's also ignorant. Those women in particular, it's ignorant because what makes you ignorant. I think I always wanted to find this thing, but what makes you ignorant is or foolish rather, is when you know that you don't. When you know that, how's it go? When you know that you don't know. So
when you don't know that you don't know.
Yeah.
When you don't know that you don't know, it's ignorant, right? But if you are owning your ignorance. What is that? That's you knowing. Like, that's you saying that I know I'm light skinned, I know, and you dark skinned, so what? I'm embracing that. That's your problem, not mine. What is that? That's ignorance as well? No. What is that? That's like, I'm saying that there are people that there's whole societies of black people still, especially in the South, that embrace that. The same way white privilege is embraced by white people, right? It's a mindset. Not all white people have that mindset, but maybe most of them do. But there are white people that know that mindset is wrong. I'm saying that it's the same level within the black community. Colorism is perpetuated by a mindset, and it's twofold.
But the mindset, particularly in the context of this country, the mindset got perpetuated through racism and white supremacy. When you think of the Willie Lynch letter, he talks about
I was 1712, Bayesian slave master. The first thing that he said, you must use the dark-skinned slaves, this is a quote, versus the light-skinned slaves, and the light-skinned slaves versus the dark-skinned slaves, and this is where social acceptance of black women started to become conflicted. Sorry, as you were saying.
But that's still one. But I'm saying that dark-skinned women or dark-skinned people only use the one side of that. You don't understand the other side of that.
I think it's danger in what you're saying. I think to generalize and say dark-skinned women do that.
No. That the mindset is on both dark skin and light skin. The assumption is that every light skinned person is with that mindset, and that's not true.
Yes, you're right. The very function of colorism is to highlight, to perpetuate difference. Right? And I think once we start to deconstruct and think about how to make things communal and find that bottom line.
We argue about this all the time because that's my mindset amongst black people. Not just
right, but before you get there, though, there has to be an acknowledgement on both sides. The intricacies that are the pros and the cons, right? There are sisters of your complexion that bask in the privilege that comes with your complexion. No, I hear you. But there are also sisters in my complexion who refuse to understand that you too, as a lighter skinned sister, you have struggles as well, and those struggles need to be acknowledged.
And then as it goes up the totem pole, right? When we go out of black to half black, right? Then you have half black women and men who are actually probably the ones that really receive the privilege more so, right? Because they're closer to white. They get ridiculed and and disrespected by darker skinned black people, just because when a lot of times they're fighting a good fight. The case in point is Colin Kaepernick. When Colin Kaepernick took the stand, all these dark-skinned athletes had a problem with it. Why?
Well,
you never took the stand. You never said shit in the past 20 years.
We have
a problem with this half-black
but
man.
We also had, because he's dead now, we think about people like Du Bois, who talked about the talented 10, who was biracial. That's a perpetuation of living in the privilege of being light-skinned. So we cannot denounce the fact that there are some white light-skinned people who do perpetuate that, who do glorify that, who bask in that. Because for Du Bois to say that the talented 10, you know what he was talking about.
Exactly.
He was talking about the brightest African Americans. And at that time, the brightest African American sister, they weren't my complexion at the time. We can talk about Frederick Douglass and everything else. Those were the people that were exposed to education.
Yeah, do you think he was referring to the complexion or just to the opportunities that they had? Yeah, by default, but I don't.
The lighter skinned people had the better education.
Of course, but I don't think
it was just normal. It was just normal. We can talk about like even the political makeup of Cuba. Like black Americans in particular have this obsessive relationship with Fidel Castro. But if you look into what he did in Cuba, there were no dark skinned people within his circle, and that was intentional, right? So yes. What Du Bois was doing was intentional. He knew it. He knew that back then, Carter G. Woodson, all these men who were accessing the Harvard campuses, they were lighter skinned. So if you're saying we're only choosing the talented 10, you know where the talented 10 is coming from.
But again, even that is twofold. And the only thing I have...
No, that's obvious.
No, it's not. It's because he was affording the education, right? So from your standpoint, it's that
He was a part of the education
Frederick
because
Douglass
he
was
was
also
lighter
educated.
skinned
Was
as
he
well.
not? He's a dark
But I don't
skinned
think
man.
he's
Was he not
pointing
No,
to
no, no.
that. I
Frederick
think that just
Douglass
happens
wasn't
to
that
be a
dark.
circumstance
He wasn't.
of it.
He definitely wasn't my complexion.
Frederick
Like,
Douglass?
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't the
He
one who
definitely
put those
wasn't my
rules,
complexion.
who put those rules in place.
He definitely
just
wasn't
happened
my
to operate
complexion.
in the system. Like
He
didn't
definitely
implement
wasn't
those
his
rules.
complexion.
So if I can say but this is the thing that colorism does, right? Because we're here speaking about like and I don't even know if the conversation is about who has the brunt of it all when like the reality is black is black. This was the whole sentiment of colorism. This is what it was built for. I think, and like even as I'm listening to, we speak about it being twofold, is way more complex than that because like it's
a
about
lot of deconstruction.
it's about a spirit and a culture that has been created by it, right? The reality is we're naturally thinking from a deficit point of view when we're even approaching the issue of colorism. Because colorism is something that's tacked to privilege, and it's something that we're working our way toward. It's not something that like black people had an abundance of, and it has been shared, right? It's something that we're all striving for. So naturally, we're all going to be thinking from a deficit point of view and thinking selfishly only from from our vantage point when we're thinking about issues related to colorism.
No,
this is why it's
there are
difficult for us
some
to see
things.
why white people don't see
No,
that
no,
we're
no.
like this is
I kind of disagree with that NPSQ because you know what? Pigmentocracy is real. People,
I didn't even
when
know that
we
was a
think,
fucking word.
when we look at Latin America in particular, right? Are we talking about Peru, Brazil, Colombia? There has been extensive research around this. And when we look at different shades within these communities, that most of them, they're Spaniards, okay? And most of them are lighter. The people who are darker, they're at the bottom, and it's purposeful. It's in economics,
Is that
it's
not
in
a
education.
reflection of European
It's-
dominance, though? I think that's where that's from.
It's
just
being
natural
perpetuated within
to-
your. If you read the Willie Lynch letter,
Yeah.
it's about how you're going to keep that cycle going. It's not the white man who's going to keep that cycle going.
We
Because
are.
one of the most powerful
no,
things
no.
about slavery is the mental slavery.
Initially, I said from
You're
the
keeping
beginning,
it in.
all that shit comes
That's
from
black
massa.
and white system.
It's a tool for massa when there's
I'm all on your
five people, when there's 5 white people in the house and 40 slaves in the house. What keeps them from
Cut it
not
out.
having the
Cut it
slaves
out.
revolt?
Cut it out.
Not having the 40 revolt against the 4.
Well-
when you create little beefs amongst each other, when there's half of them are dark skin and half of them are
It's-
light skin, and you implement that, and we just been fighting amongst each other
Yes,
forever.
That's
over the same
Wall
shit.
Street.
sorry.
scriptural. A house divided against itself will fall. So
Absolutely.
our house has been falling ever since because they taught us how to combat each
divided.
other.
But you know what? Sitting here listening about this colorism, like this morning, me and Sardia had like an in-depth conversation about what this is, and we kind of like took it at from the topic in music. Like you have Sean Paul, who is really not that talented when you talk
Not at
about
all.
reggae music.
But the only
right?
popular dance song he is.
Okay,
Paul.
it's a
Sean
different.
Paul.
It's a
I am
different.
not a
Hold on.
Sean
Hold
Paul's
on.
the only reason
It's
why.
different if you
girls don't
like the
sugar.
person. That doesn't mean the person is talented based on the talent that is on the
Shaggy
island.
too. He's
All
not-
right,
Shaggy
hold
is not
on.
talented either.
No, hold on. No, Shaggy. It's funny you said Shaggy because we got 3 people that we're gonna be talking about.
It wasn't
So we're
me.
talking about Sean Paul. We're talking about Shaggy. And we're
Collie
talking
Buddz?
about no. We're not even talking about Collie Buddz. Collie Buddz white.
I
So we
finally
talking about.
Birds come
Hold on.
around.
Let me say the third name. Let me say the third
Hold
name.
on,
So
let
we're
me-
talking about Junior Gang. All right.
I mean-
Hold on. We're talking about Junior Gang.
Junior Gang is Junior
See?
Gang.
So
I don't know these
no.
people.
Listen, Junior
You know
Gang
Damian
is
Marley?
very. Damian
Yeah,
Marley
Junior
is
Gang.
very talented.
Yeah.
Very talented. I mean, when he puts his words together and makes his delivery,
That first album
he's
was-
very talented,
his
right?
first album was lit.
No, but he carried the Marley name, and his mother is basically white, a white lady,
Yeah, she is.
like a beauty queen, right? No, Ziggy Marley.
Yep. Is
Ziggy
as
Marley,
talented.
hold on. Ziggy or maybe even better, but Ziggy Marley is a black
Kimani too.
man. You get what I'm saying? Ziggy Marley mom,
Rita Marley.
Rita Marley is like black
She was
like
the
this
first-
mic stand.
the first
You
wife,
get what
the
I'm
dark
saying?
one.
No,
Oh, that's black.
Ziggy Marley hasn't really received the international exposure like Damian Marley. Like Damian
And he's the one
Marley
who's
is
pumping
not-
out
that
Love
is
Is Your
colorism.
Religion.
No, with Sean Paul, Beanie Man was the one who made that connect with the Neptunes with Sean Paul, right? Now Beanie Man has been one of the first Jamaican artists to go crossover, go international. I'm not talking about like in what's his name? What's the artist you told me about? Shabaranks. I'm not talking about in Shabaranks time, but like in our generation, right? So you had Beenie Man and you had Bounty Killer. Beenie Man already had crossover hits, international hits, but it didn't really reach anywhere. Yeah. Sean Paul now had the image. You get what I'm saying? He had the color. He's not the most talented.
He's not talented at
Jamaican artist to really hold on to really reach the levels that he has reached through his music. You have way more talent there, but he was chosen. He had a good team around him, but his color, his skin tone helped him because one thing that they had in common, all these three, Shaggy also, everybody that I called, Shaggy's from Uptown Jamaica.
How popular is bleaching on your?
I was wondering. I didn't know if it was Queens.
Sean Paul is from Uptown. When I say Uptown, I mean in the affluent areas like Red Hills and Beverly Hills and all them places, right? He's Uptown. Junior Gang is Uptown, and also
Junior Gang is not even Jamaican, is he?
Well, Uptown, them one they come from. You get what I'm saying? So all those three people that I called, they from Uptown. In Jamaica, it wasn't racism. It was more social divide and also color. You get what I'm saying? So we refer to the brown skin girl as the browning. We love her browning. You understand? And when Buju Banton come out and say, yo, I love my money and thing, there was backlash behind that. What about the black woman then?
Can y'all
stop crying?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
You understand? So listen. So hold on.
Buju's song was which one?
Both of them.
But the second one was what?
Say me not stop cry for all black woman. Respect all the girls with dark complexion.
Because at first he came out with the browning.
Respect girls with dark. I got you. I heard that. I heard that one.
All the girls
got you.
With dark complexion.
Got
because
you.
he came up. I love my car, I love my bike, I love my money and thing. But most of all, I love my browning. You get what I'm saying? So he was.
So browning is what?
Light skin.
Oh, okay, I got you. All right, bet you. Got you. I got you.
But watch it now. With all due respect, right? What you just say? He loved browning.
Yeah, that's all I know.
But no better all of them in they with brown people.
No, listen.
Just like Bob Marley was.
No, Michelle.
Listen.
Wait, Bob Marley.
Wait, hold on. What I do?
English.
I am so confused.
Yeah.
All right. So this is what I'm saying though. Colorism.
One at a time.
So let's bring it back to colorism, especially in the music, right? Look at. I don't know if
I'm
you know.
confused.
I don't know if you know.
What did I do? I'm trying to.
Popcorn. The Jamaican
That's
artist.
my
Popcorn.
son.
The Drake. That's like.
Got it.
Drake breaks a lot of popcorn stuff
He's on the
off.
Drake team, right?
Yeah.
No. The thing is this: because the black artist that is really more talented than these light skinned artists that is getting the exposure and the accolades. Like there is gonna be frustration. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you have the color, you get to get the access. No, look at and it might be the unpopular what do you call it? Opinion. But why did one of the greatest, in my opinion, he's the greatest in the dancehall, Vibes Cartel. He
That's
could
my
be
guy.
Controversial because he knows about controversy.
But he's a lyricist.
He's a lyricist, but he went brown.
Then he bleached the shit out of himself, right?
Yep.
That was all
he
for marketing.
did bleach himself.
Not only because
And
it was
but it
all
was
for
also
marketing.
perpetuated.
It's not only because behind marketing. He's a very smart and strategic guy, right? But it wasn't only
Nah, that
just
was
for
some
marketing.
sucker shit,
No.
That was the Sammy Sosa shit?
Yeah.
I don't.
That's
I
sucker
don't
No, but
shit,
you guys,
bleaching.
you have to
I
recognize
don't co-sign.
different
I don't
different
co-sign
psyche,
the
right?
bleaching, but no, not more. That's not my argument.
One more minute, guys.
He went brown in my opinion, right? Because there is a certain level, and it's real that you can get to before you plateau.
Yep.
You get what I'm saying? And taking it to that level by going brown, like what Michael Jackson did, it gave him an opportunity to to transcend
All right,
that plateau.
hold on.
That's what my argument
Don't get upset now. Don't get upset now.
argument
But wait, let me even bring it present day. Let me bring it present day because even on one of the popular reality shows right now, Spice is on Love and Hip Hop.
Michael
and
Jackson.
One of her biggest, he bleached his skin.
Yes,
and one
he
of his
did.
Biggest, and one of
For a reason.
He
had
vitiligo.
Okay. And when you are the biggest star in the world, you can't be running around looking like a leopard with spots and all
really?
that. Because it's
now,
television. It's television.
But
you can't look like that.
One of the most
So how do we
like
explain the different makeup of his facial structure?
Oh no, he definitely had plastic surgery.
But how do you explain that
He had plastic surgery.
But how do you explain that psychology?
I mean, his dad used to call him Big Nose. I mean, he definitely had issues with that. But what I'm saying is, I don't think Michael Jackson was like, yo, I want to be a white person. It was like, yo, this shit is happening to you. So it's either you're not going to go that way. You're going towards that direction anyway. So
I'm not
you might as
saying
well
he
make
was
the whole
doing
shit
that.
that
That's
color.
not my assertion at all.
Sometimes it's subconscious.
I mean,
Even
I'm a Michael Jackson connoisseur. That whole glove shit was that.
Sometimes it's
That
subconscious.
ass.
Even
I
That
love
ass.
Michael Jackson.
That shit started. That's what that whole shit
As
was.
a little black girl,
Shit
one of the
started
first
80s.
things that I wanted was a perm, right? Not because like someone made me hate my natural hair, but like
That was the thing to
seen
do.
it
That was
TV.
definitely the
Yeah,
thing.
I
on
had
TV.
Like it was more
Jerry curls.
manageable. It seemed like it was something like it definitely made me think that my hair was going to be longer. All of these things. It didn't necessarily mean that like. It
I
didn't
think
mean
that
that
comes from our
after a
parents,
while,
though, not
naturally, because like all of this shit is learned behavior, but colorism is learned, right?
Absolutely.
Like
Yes,
and
that's the bottom line.
It is.
And after
We
a
were
while,
taught that.
like we grow out of it if we put ourselves in a position to gain knowledge and like to challenge what it is that we know about these things. But like a lot of these things, like we're inheriting from the people in them who are raising us, who also don't know what they don't know. So I say that to say that like the choices that they made, even to this day, like so there's a documentary, one of those things that I watched with Bob Marley, and I remember being irritated by the fact that he left Rita to go with that lady, and they always made Rita.
He never left her.
or whatever.
But isn't Bob half white himself?
Yeah, he's a.
Yeah, can't be mad
but
at
he
him.
didn't know the father. So like, and not that
Listen,
that matters.
We gotta.
But
We
he
don't
was raised with a black
discriminate.
woman.
We gotta.
If
leave
there's
it at
chicks
that.
that's
We got
purple
5
somewhere, I like them too. We don't discriminate.
I feel like the
go-
colorism based on is different within the not different, but it seems like it's even stronger in the islands.
Because you brown, you're looked at as
Well,
royal.
She can work in the airport and in the
I
bank.
see why you're saying that. In America,
She can get a bank job and an airport job.
in America,
That's how I grew up thinking.
You serious?
there are more
Anderson,
isms
you got the
to
last
fight
point.
with in America. And the main ism in America to fight with is racism. On the island, after the Europeans left, because on the island they ended slavery 30 years before the United States. When you think about Jamaica, not with the exclusion of Haiti, because that ended in 1803, but what was left was shadeism, colorism, because we are no longer grappling with the white man anymore because the majority left. But in America, the entire apparatus, the entire system is controlled by the white man. So there are other isms to fight with. That's why it may seem to you that it's more pervasive among Afro-Caribbean people than it is among Afro-Americans. But the reality is it's just a black issue, and it needs to be addressed. It takes a lot of deconstruction. And like you said, it's twofold. So it's sisters, brothers coming together, regardless of shade, and kind of picking out the good and getting rid of the bad in order to solve the problem. I think that's what it is.
And scene.
Scene.
We got a couple minutes left. Rain, you got any rants for this week?
My only rant would have been, because I didn't address it, was Chris Brown with the whole nice hair comment. And so everyone's in a...
What did he say?
He said good hair or nice hair, though.
Said nice hair.
Because I think nice hair is different from good hair.
It's a song that he has. And he said
Nice hair is different than good hair to me. Good hair is like perm. Nice hair is
let me
like
get
you
the
take
line
care of
out.
your shit.
The line was, he fucks black chicks with nice hair.
Oh,
and
wow.
so everybody went crazy.
Nice hair can mean an afro to me.
I was about to say,
nice hair can mean
if
an afro
he
to
says
me.
nice
With the
hair,
cocoa shit and all
that
and
just
it's
means
shiny
that you
and you know what
take
I'm saying?
care of it. And from my perspective, like, okay, my sister, she has a shortcut. She takes care of her shortcut. Then I have another sister who has hair all down her back. She takes care of the hair that's down her back. To me, that's nice. I'm not saying anything incest related, but I'm just saying, like, you know,
get it.
there's if you take care of yourself, to me, that would be considered nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I would agree the people went crazy with it all week, and because of the stigmas attached to good hair, bad hair, colorism, and typically it was equated to good hair, so it was taken out of context, right? Because I think also Chris Brown, we never we'll talk about that too. We never seen Chris Brown really with a light skinned woman.
That's his preference.
Black,
that doesn't mean
I've barely seen Chris Brown with a hairline.
That's his preference. That
take
doesn't
offense to
mean
that.
that he has an indelible hatred or dislike.
No, I don't think so. But I'm saying those things were placed on him. I also feel like he's from Virginia, so that mindset is not too far. Like the good hair is like it's the same.
That's
thing.
what Willie made the speech.
I think some things are just so murky because I think
About to
even
say
as a
Lynchburg,
dark-skinned
Virginia
woman,
is right
right?
there.
I think as a dark-skinned woman, my child's father, he's light. People would say, "Oh, you like light-skinned guys," and if I meet someone and he happens to be light, then a narrative is going to get created because there's a history there. But that doesn't mean I can't see a dark-skinned brother and I'm like, I like him and I'm going to date. Whatever the case may be. So I think sometimes people take things out of context and they start to create narratives around things that aren't real. It so happened that in my circle, it just happened to be a lot of dark-skinned brothers that I like who happen to be tall, and that's this, that. It so happened to be in my circle. It happened to be a lot of light-skinned brothers that I like, and it just happened to be that. And sometimes there's no real meaning or significance.
No, but then on the other side of it,
on
the other side of it, to the point that you guys were making earlier about folks recognizing folks who have privilege, but that these folks not using their privilege. So Chris Brown happened to make that paper that I had written years ago because of the Say Goodbye video, which I've shared with you guys a couple of times.
It's a dope song.
And in the video, it's like essentially it's about two girls. One dances ballet, who's lighter skin. One dances hip hop, who's darker skin. And like he leaves the light skin one for the dark skin one.
Message,
right?
okay.
That's
and
what's up.
like.
Oh, he leaves the light skin one for the dark skin one? I
Yeah.
thought it was the other way around. Oh, lit! See, you was trying to hate on him this whole time. My bad.
He left the dark skin one for the light skin one.
Oh, okay,
Forgive
okay.
me.
Oh, all right.
Oh,
However,
so you
that-
left the dark one for the light skin?
Yeah, okay, yeah,
You
my bad.
messed
Yeah,
it
you're
up.
right. You're
Forget
right.
it.
Whatever the case might
Okay.
be, this is a person with privilege, right?
Yeah.
With access, who like is aware and things of that nature. Granted, when he did that video, he was younger. But if I was just speaking in plain sight, if he was speaking to one of his homies who thought he had privilege because he was lighter skinned, they could have said that like you could have used your platform to disrupt the way that we did that to black women. We didn't have to play black women against each other. Right. So to the point, like yes, he might not wake up each day saying like, oh, I'm gonna walk in support of light skin, like people who like look high yellow like me. However, the decisions that we make consciously and or subconsciously also perpetuate what we stand for.
I disagree.
Yeah.
Ooh. We need more time for that then.
Yes.
So and
Shout out to
It's about time you
DreamWorks.
came up, Anderson.
Shout out. Can I one shout out?
Oh yeah.
One shout out to DreamWorks because I was thinking this whole time when we talk about light, dark, whatever. Prince Charming was the bad character who was dressed in all white most of the
Dope.
movie, and he was the bad guy.
Dope.
So I think they were trying to deconstruct what good versus evil looks like within cartoons and animation, because clearly if you see Scar, see Jafar, you go, I could do the whole list.
Yeah.
Everybody is of a darker hue. Ursula, you go.
They
So,
in this
but
paper too.
I think they tried
Read it,
Shrek.
y'all.
So shout out to DreamWorks for making Prince Charming
Shout out
lighter
DreamWorks.
and bad.
Shout out.
Dope.
Definitely.
Just
Before
like the voices that were talked to them were black.
Decisions can be made based on preference.
that's true. Before we get out of here, we have
I
this.
like tall men.
Okay. So before we get,
Let me get that in there just in case anybody listening.
so before we get out of here, we have this segment, this new segment called Unpopular Opinions of the Week, and gotten a lot of traction on this. So there was one that stood out. I was curious to know your opinions on it really quick before we go. This comes from Nels159. She says, just because you are in a relationship or even married to someone doesn't mean you need to live with them. In fact,
Whoa!
in
So
fact,
he put his hand down.
in fact, I think living separately can be beneficial in some cases, in my unpopular opinion.
Nels
I
what?
agree.
Shout out to my wife, Tisha. I love you, baby. Hold on. This is weird.
Give
I 100% agree.
Reef her number.
Yes. Nels what? Nels 158.
159.
159 is lit. You agree? Hell yeah.
Shout
I
out
don't
to
like.
you, Nels.
I don't want to see nobody every day. I don't like nobody that much.
I actually know a couple who lives. I know a married couple who lives apart.
You told me.
My ex's
You're not meeting the right one.
mom and her husband. They don't live in the same home.
Really?
Mhm.
That's
And-
not a
and it
marriage.
works for
I'm
them.
sorry.
Why
I
not?
actually think
I'm
that
sorry.
works.
I'm not gonna say it doesn't work. I'm not gonna go there. I think it's very strange. It's a very odd thing to
Strange
do.
is
listen,
a nice way to put it.
It don't
Yeah.
have to fit everybody else. It has to fit you.
And
I don't
agree.
care what
I agree
everybody
with
else
that.
says. I don't like hamburgers.
As for
Everybody
Don't
loves them.
make sense.
I don't
That's the
eat
guy.
hamburgers.
That's the
I don't
guy.
care what everybody else does. It gotta work for me.
So then my thing is,
Like,
if you want to live by yourself, why pursue a relationship? Then
because
go
I want to
live
have
by
children.
yourself.
I want to have children.
So how you gonna spend time with the
Oh,
kid?
okay.
No, I want to see my kid every day, not you though.
That's gonna so
What?
they're co-parenting.
I don't like you that much. I don't like nobody that
So then
much.
you gotta have a kid with somebody you like that much.
I
Well,
don't
no,
like
because I don't-
nobody that
because I don't
much, is what I'm
necessarily think that
saying,
you have to
like-
live with
Yo,
anybody.
I have to live with my wife.
You must gonna be
I
loving
have
your
to,
hand.
and I love it.
I
Well,
don't even like her
I
that much.
absolutely love it.
but what's strange, I guess I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. Why do you think that you must live with a spouse in order, like?
Because that's what society tells you, and they force you and they tell you that that's the
No.
cookie
I
cutter.
I
So
actually
now
don't
we're just
like-
doing random things
Can-
so that we don't have to conform. Cut it out.
So let me answer that. I disagree with that.
No more French toast bun.
My wife works at night, so she works overnight. I literally can't stand being in the bed by myself some nights because
What?
I really enjoy knowing that, like, if I scoot back, I'm a
Shit.
bump into her.
I
you
sleep
know, her
so
bump.
much
You need
better
to
by
upgrade to a king
myself.
size
So-
so that you can roll
I
from
sleep
left
so
to right.
much better
Right
by
back.
myself.
Now wait,
Women like
wait a
spider
minute.
monkeys just
Wait a
move
minute.
the whole
Wait a minute
night,
though.
like, yo, move.
Here's another
2
thing
minutes,
though. I also like to be in the bed by myself too. But to be living apart is different from her not being home because she's
Right.
at work
Every
and I'm
night
sleeping.
though, like
or
2
you
nights,
guys
3
can
nights
get
out of
home
the
and you're
week.
downstairs in the basement and she's upstairs.
Exactly.
You just one time apart.
Living
But-
together is
2 nights out of the week, 3 nights out of the week. You know
Well,
what I'm
good
saying?
luck with your future spouse.
She knows somebody that does it. He knows somebody that does it.
But
Like
I
it's
actually don't
just
think that it's a
What?
bad.
You do?
I don't think it's a bad
What's
idea.
her name? Nels what?
Oh,
Nels
her name is
159.
Nels159.
How y'all trying to be
Holla at
different?
word. Y'all might be a
Us.
match made in heaven.
Yo, listen, man. You gotta find what works for you, and you gotta do
Yeah.
that.
What you prefer, tall or short women?
Trying to see if there's.
I don't. I can't.
What happened?
I can't really.
don't matter.
put- yeah, man. If there's girls somewhere that's green on some planet, I like them too. I don't discriminate. It's not. There's not. Yeah. If you're a girl,
Star
then
Trek.
it's cool. Yo, listen.
Homegirl
if I
from
get off
Star
the ship
Trek.
and there's green girls on that panel, I'm like, yo, she's cute.
I'm not gonna go there. I don't even.
Listen,
that's
I don't
that's a
discriminate.
rabbit
Is
hole.
he serious or he just
That's a
wanna
rabbit.
be
Nah, because I can't say yo, I
conversational?
like tall. I mean, yeah,
Welcome
there's
to
tall women.
Unpopular
I
that
just
are
know
there's
I
short
like
women that are
tall
cute.
men. They have to be tall. If they're not tall, it's just like, what's the point?
that's-
Like,
that's-
I can't.
that's
I'm
speaking
5'8".
What's the point?
You like tall guys? Anderson, you like tall?
Wait, you're 5'8"?
She stressed this multiple times. She's
You're
like,
five-
I like tall.
You're 5'8"?
I ain't getting this one.
Mrs. Anderson, you're
And I'm
5'8"?
trying to be
Yeah.
nosy.
Really?
But that
About
speaks to, you know, a
5'6".
man being, you know, masculine. I
I
understand
can't.
tall.
How
I
you gonna be
understand.
right here and I'm like, yeah, babe. No.
I feel you. That's what you like, though.
Short men need love too.
Some short men like tall women.
And they got heels. for
They
short
like
men.
climbing.
You gonna date Prince? Man wearing no heels. I'm thinking like that's the only dude that wears heels.
That's masculine.
That's
and
acceptable.
I can find my masculine. Well, what I think is masculine.
And scene.
Unpopular opinion.
Unpopular opinions, episode 38.
38, what's
Shout out to
up?
our guest.
Shout out to our guest. Yes.
Thank y'all for having me. I really appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Hey.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm 6'4". My average height girl is probably about what? 5'5", 5'6".
Wow. See you.
Yeah,
That's
my-
You like
my-
to King Kong them. You.
I think my wife is 5'5". I'm 6'5", so yeah, I think my wife is like 5'5", 5'6".
I think your wife will agree with me that she likes tall men.
Here
I-
at Unpopular
I know
Opinions, we
she
like
would agree
all
with
women.
you.
So, you know.
I know for a fact she'll agree with
Shout
you.
out to Wall Street. Appreciate
Wall
you, brother.
Yeah. Wall Street all
Anderson.
day, you know.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes. Check out the book Reflections of a Troubled
KJACK.
Soul.
Buy it.
Shout out to
Right.
KJACK.
Y'all got 3 battles out.
Yeah.
Go holler at them.
Watch them shits.
And also,
Or
Verbal
just watch
Warfare,
the video.
Verbal
Verbal
Warzone.
Warzone is
Verbal
going down
Warzone.
July 27th.
You gonna be on Verbal Warzone?
No, I do. I work with them. I do
Yeah.
consulting.
Oh, okay, got you.
So July 27th is a dope card. Main event is official versus E Hart. It's on beat. Verbal Warzone. You should try out Verbal Warzone on beat.
I got official 2-1. E
Okay.
Hart is going
On
to
beat,
kill
though?
her. Is going to kill her 1 round, like murder her. But she's
y'all
going to
talk,
edge 2 rounds.
Summer Impact?
Nah, we didn't get there.
Okay.
Yeah, we
come back.
we'll be back.
Please.
Yeah, whenever you want to come back,
July
man.
18th, I'm doing an all-female concert in Harlem.
July 18th, all-female concert.
Yes,
Yes.
at the
Day
H
after
Law.
my birthday.
Please, I need to know about that. I'm
You
gonna
said
definitely
all female
pull up.
concert. What you mean?
Rap. It's an all-female rap concert.
Wall Street is interested. Wall Street said, whoa. Bring it back.
Look.
You said
Well,
what
lady
happened?
5556. That's it.
Unpopular opinions.
Tight to them people, that's
Episode 38. We out.
Oh, good. This
Yeah, that
is
was fun.
great.